Chapter 1. Idiocy. After months of tinkering, Naruto finally let out a whoop of triumph. The last several weeks of extreme frustration and sleepless nights slipped from his mind as he looked down at the scroll in front of him with a smug smirk. Uzumaki Naruto, Tokubetsu Jounin by day and Hunter Nin in the shadows, had an epiphany 4 months ago when the third missing Nin shattered his third Hunter Nin mask in 3 consecutive solo missions. Knowledge of his identity may have followed each target to the grave, but it was held to explain how he lost another mask, while most ANBU and Hunter Nin were able to keep theirs intact for years. It must have been the third Tsunade Baba death punch to the jaw that slammed him into a eureka moment in the wall. He just needed to make sure those incidents couldn't happen. So, the most reckless seal master in history gathered his arsenal of sealing knowledge and holed himself up in Konoha's ANBU library to invent his next outrageous but ingenious fuin. Over those long 4 months, Naruto only emerged from the library for missions, ramen, and showering, spending the rest of his free time with his clones on a seal to prevent the inevitable 4th broken mask. What he created should have been called the Idiocy Prevention Jutsu, but Naruto called it the Jiken Makikeshi, Time Rewind, no Jutsu. When activated, the seal would take the user back several moments, so they could redo those few moments, technically erasing and rewriting time. It took an enormous amount of chakra to activate, but required delicate chakra control to determine the duration. The more chakra pumped into the seal, the more time rewound. The chakra requirement for the initial activation made it impossible to use by anyone else aside from other Jinchuriki and several S-rank shinobi. Naruto had tested the final product, and it had worked perfectly. 1 minute he was walking towards the obscure ninjutsu section of the library, and a moment later he was back at the medical jutsu section 10 seconds ago. Hell yeah, Sasuke is going to be so jealous. All he needed now was a mission to test it out. Naruto jumped through the forest to his A-rank mission sporting his pack, 2 Deisho swords, a brand new seal tattooed on his hip, and a moronic grin. He barely noticed the passing scenery as he sped towards Kusagakure, where the target had been spotted. Within 3 hours, he had located and engaged the target in a fight. This is exhilarating. The missing Nin's deep voice boomed. I have the honor of killing Konoha's Crimson Spiral, Akamaki. Naruto growled behind his mask of red swirls originating from its center, Kanzai, the roaring giant of Kiri. Prepare to die. The 2 A-rank shinobi crashed through trees into a small clearing, caught in an intense taijutsu battle with neither gaining the upper hand. Kanzai whipped out his long sword from behind his broad back and sliced at his executioner. Naruto parried the attack with his wakizashi, slipping under the large enemy's thick arm and delivering a chakra-backed blow to his side. Unfazed, Kanzai charged again with his powerful form. The sound of metal striking metal rang through the clearing. The giant accentuated each blow with a roar while Naruto twisted silently around his enemy's body. Futon Kamikaze. Naruto released a powerful gust of wind as soon as he saw an opening. 2 tornadoes rushed at the missing Nin, sandwiching him. The wind tore at Kanzai's sword arm until a thick log replaced his giant form. He reappeared behind Naruto to deliver a violent gash to his back. Naruto grunted in pain before forming 7 Kagebunshin to pummel Kanzai and buy him time to prepare his next attack. Naruto somersaulted a few paces away, landing in a crouch, and reached to pull an explosive note from his pack. Suddenly, from under the Naruto clones, Kanzai roared. Suiton, Gujuan, Great Water Arm, no jutsu. The clones were blown away as the missing Nin's arms swelled and pounded into the bodies. Before Naruto could throw the explosive tag, Kanzai charged and smashed his giant fist into his side. He felt a rib crack as he flew across the clearing into a tree. Futon, Senpuken, Whirlwind Fist. Naruto retaliated with a giant whirlwind which flew into Kanzai's leg, snapping the bone with a loud crunch. Naruto winced as he rose to his feet, clutching his side. He charged at Kanzai's kneeling form to deliver a critical blow. Rasengan, Suiton, Swahachi, Water Wave Palm. Kanzai raised his engorged arm to shoot a powerful jet of water at Naruto's incoming blue sphere. The Rasengan drilled effortlessly through the core of the geyser and into the large open palm. On impact, the bloody hand snapped closed on Naruto's arm like a clawed animal trap, and he was thrown headfirst into the ground nearby, causing his vision to momentarily black out. Ignoring the broken leg, the giant painfully hefted his bloody form to the younger man, sword raised to stab the incapacitated body, but suddenly multiple Kagebunshin popped up around the clearing and the blonde performed a Kawarimi. Kanzai spun around, but couldn't pull back in time to block a kick to his unbroken leg. Roaring in pain, he rolled backward to dodge Naruto's explosive tag, detonating under him. Naruto leapt after the giant and grabbed his wakizashi, which had fallen to the ground earlier. His blade slipped below Kanzai's defending punch and sliced upwards across the wide chest. But instead of recoiling, Kanzai brought his own sword up and stabbed through his smaller opponent's side with his sword. In return, Naruto speared the missing Nin's stomach. They froze for a second, then both ripped their swords out of flesh and backed up, panting in pain. "You little shit, I'm going to rip you apart." Kanzai roared, and the two men re-engaged in a battle of swords and taijutsu. Blood splattered the ground as their bodies suffered vicious attacks and exhaustion. Naruto jumped back just in time to avoid a direct blow to the face. Not the mask. Why is it always the mask? He seethed as a small piece of porcelain chipped off the edge, showing how close he had been to having his face sliced off. Kanzai forced out a half-hysterical, guttural laugh as he leapt forward with his last burst of energy. "Don't run away, boy. I want to see your face, the mysterious face that no one has ever seen and survived to tell the tale. I want to see it twist in agony as I gut the infamous Akamaki." "That is where you're wrong, bastard," Naruto snarled in growing fury. Ignoring his protesting body and the alarmed voice of his more rational mind, Naruto's face broke into a feral grin behind his mask. The mask, which had thick, spiraling lines everyone mistook for swirls, which were actually 9 blood-red, spiraling tails painted on white. "It's not Akamaki. It's Akashiori, the Crimson Tails. You're going to pay for damaging my mask." Red mist engulfed the demon vessel's form as he furiously pumped angry red chakra into the seal on his hip and shouted, Hikan makika esi no jutsu. His world twisted and warped into red before losing consciousness. Chapter 2. Plight. Naruto groaned as he began to register sounds and smells. He couldn't tell where he was or why he was lying face down on what he guessed was the hard, rocky ground. The thick smell of blood reached his sensitive nose, and he groaned again in disgust. The blonde shifted to relieve pressure on his arm, only to freeze when pain exploded in his side. Cammy, what happened? He blinked open his heavy eyelids, his eyes slowly focusing on dark, moving shadows on the ground which he identified as belonging to humans. He didn't understand how he didn't detect them when they were only several feet away. He turned his head carefully to settle on one cheek. He's awake, a voice a man whispered. The sandal feet in front of him moved closer, and Naruto tensed. Can you understand me? A female voice reached his ears. Unable to move away, Naruto merely nodded. Good. How do you feel? Like some insane missing Nin ran me over. He replied weakly as bits and pieces of his memory returned. Someone snorted in the background, more like he had got torn apart. Never seen someone so shredded. We didn't dare move you until our medic Nin arrived. The woman spoke again, her voice laced with annoyance at the man. I've managed to stop most of the bleeding, but I don't have the skills to treat your internal and head injuries. Naruto's head began to pound as he tried to keep up with her words. He whimpered at the intense pain which suddenly engulfed his entire body, and it became difficult to draw air into his lungs. Why was Kyuubi not healing him? Hey, stay with me. Don't close your eyes. The woman called out to him. Fuck, where is Saki? He's going into shock. Seconds later, a warm sensation covered his head and spread down his spine. Naruto sighed in relief as the pressure in his head lessened. We're going to put you on your back now, a different female voice warned. Naruto grit his teeth as his body was turned over, but the warm sensation returned, this time directed to his chest and stomach. He opened his tired eyes again to see a pair of kind eyes before succumbing to blackness. When Naruto woke again, the first thing he felt was wind against his face. He tightened his arms around whatever he was holding on to and carefully opened his eyes. Good morning, Sleeping Beauty. How are you feeling? Better, Naruto rasped. He realized he was being carried on someone's back as they sped through the forest. Who? Ah, we're Konoha Nin, and I assume you are too from that tattoo on your shoulder and your uniform, the man said amicably. It's good to see you alive. You were covered in blood, but it's mostly dried now. You had a severe concussion, stab wounds, broken ribs, chakra exhaustion, and internal bleeding. Naruto spoke hesitantly, unsure about his situation. Where am I? We're between Kusa and Hai no Kuni, headed to Konoha. We'll be there in a few minutes. In the meantime, how about we get to know each other better? I'm Kei, by the way. And you? Naruto, he supplied shortly, uncertain how much information he should disclose. Okay, tell me about yourself. How did you end up all bloody back there? I fought a missing Nin. I'm pretty sure I won. A man to his left snorted loudly. One? Looked like you lost that one, kid. Satoru, be nice. A woman to his right reprimanded. I'm Saki, the medic Nin of this Jounin unit. The rude man is Satoru, and the kunoichi at point is Mika. We felt a chakra spike on our return from a mission and decided to investigate. Feeling more comfortable with the team, he told a bit more about himself. I had a mission near Kusa to eliminate an enemy Nin. He was wicked with a sword, but I know I won the fight, he stated indignantly. All right. Calm down, kid. Satoru snickered. You're a hunter Nin, right? You seem pretty young. How old are you? Yeah, I'm 18. You know, you're not supposed to see my face. Actually, you're the first after the Hokage. Now I have to kill you, no matter how nice you've been. Naruto joked lightheartedly and placed the chipped mask hanging from his waist back on his face. But I'll let you go this time since you guys saved my life. And saved my mask. How kind of you, Satoru said dryly. Team, we're home, Mika called from the front. They passed through the gate with little trouble, helped along by the Hunter Nin tattoo, which could only be applied by the Hokage. The unit sped over rooftops to the Hokage Tower and arrived at the door to the Hokage's office at Naruto's insistence. Enter, a male voice called them in from behind the door. They filed into the office and lined up in front of the Hokage's desk. The man behind the desk eyed them quizzically and opened his mouth to question their presence until he was interrupted by a loud yelp and heavy thud. The Hunter Nin had fallen off K's back in shock at seeing the Sandame sitting behind the desk instead of a drunken Tsunade. What the hell? Naruto stuttered from where he collapsed on the floor. Panic and a dreaded hunch grew within him as he stared at the man in shock. As Sandame Gigi. Shit. What's going on? What did I do? Damage control. That's right, I need to do damage control now. Hokage-sama. Naruto stumbled to his feet and stood at attention. I would like to request immediate private audience with you. I have urgent S-class information to deliver as soon as possible. He continued hastily, this time using Hunter Nin codes for the highest of emergencies. A red sun has risen from the west. Birds abandon lower nests. Shadows hover above. If his hunch was right, he was in deep shit. The Sandame's eyes widened and shoulders tensed visibly. Team 21 dismissed. Report to Mission Control, and I will call for you once this issue has been resolved. Members of Team 21 looked at each other in confusion, but obeyed without question. Once the door closed behind them, Sarutobi activated privacy seals and directed hard eyes at the stranger standing in front of him. Report. Naruto swayed slightly on his feet before straightening, removing his mask and delivering a truthful overview of his plight to the man who was supposed to be long dead. I, Uzumaki Naruto, am a Hunter Nin of Konohagakure. During a solo mission beginning between 12 to 14 hours ago, a jutsu of my own making malfunctioned, causing my being to be transported through time. Team 21 discovered, healed, and carried me here. Though I'm uncertain of the current date, I am from the future and loyal to Konohagakure. Thick silence reigned in the office. How can you prove this? Naruto's professional demeanor crumbled as he scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. I'm not really sure. Can I think on it? Sarutobi watched him with narrowed eyes. He sent a light pulse of chakra to connect with Naruto's exposed tattoo, which would respond in kind if it were real. I remember every ANBU and Hunter Nin I have branded, but I have no recollection of you. My every instinct calls you imposter. The Hokage paused guardedly. However, your mark of loyalty answered, strong and pure. Unless the secrets of the seal have been compromised, which is unlikely, you are a true Konoha shinobi. Naruto let out a relieved sigh. In no way does this mean you have my trust, Sarutobi said sharply. You tell a far-fetched tale, but I have seen stranger things during the war. You have until you leave this room to prove yourself. Now, provide your identity in detail. He hesitated. He didn't know what he should disclose and what he should keep to himself in this delicate situation. Gathering his thoughts, he began. I am Uzumaki Naruto, age 18, orphan, Tokubetsu Jounin in the Infiltration and Reconnaissance Division, and Hunter Nin codename Akashiori. I was apprenticed to Ero Sen, or Jiraiya-sama, since the age of 13 and gained seal mastery 1 year ago. Yeah. He trailed off awkwardly, keeping his heritage and status as the Kyuubi vessel to himself. Naruto clenched a hand in nervousness. Old man, can you tell me the date? Sarutobi raised his eyebrows at Naruto's rudeness, but did as requested. The blonde furrowed his brow in concentration before letting out a long, loud groan. Phew-uck, I've landed 24 years in the past, and I don't think I can get back to my time. The Hokage gazed skeptically upon Naruto's despairing form. How can you be certain? Naruto reached into his pack to pull out a containment scroll from which he unsealed a black scroll. He spread it open on the desk for Sarutobi to see. This is the seal that I used to transport myself. It was supposed to only turn back a few minutes at most, but during battle, I got carried away and pumped too much chakra into it. Sarutobi's head snapped up in disbelief. From what I see here, you would need an impossible amount of chakra to rewind this much time. I might have forgotten to mention that I'm the container for the nine-tailed fox. The Sandame eyes widened. Jinchuriki, Uzumaki. I see. So it continues to the next generation, he murmured bitterly. That would certainly make this plausible. Uzumaki-sen, you mentioned you believe yourself unable to return. Naruto shrugged casually, trying to hold back his panic. I never looked into a reversal or fail-safe, and since the basis of the seal is to rewrite time, I've technically erased my past, at least for myself. His shoulders drooped lower as he spoke. I don't know about other people in my time. Maybe they move on with their lives without me, making this like an alternate dimension or parallel universe. You believe me? Not completely. I give you the benefit of the doubt solely for the mark on your arm. Can you prove you are indeed from the future? The blonde shut his eyes deep in thought. I can show you Kyuubi's seal, which is still in development in this time. Damn, there's no way to verify future events since they haven't happened. Maybe a blood test to prove my ancestry? I have a contract with the Toad Summons, or I used to. I'm not sure how time travel affects the space-time continuum. Oh, I know I'll convince you. Naruto smirked. I know all the places you hide those perverted Ika books, like the hidden compartment in the book manual for toilet cleaning best practices in the second bookshelf. And I might even have an old draft of Volume 7 in my pack. The Hokage leaned forward in his chair as his eyes glinted dangerously. Boy, do not mock a Kage. Show me, he demanded. Oh, what are you referring to? Naruto snickered. Sarutobi grunted in embarrassment. The seal, of course. The seal. Naruto rolled his eyes. Okay, here. He lifted his flak jacket and undershirt and carefully pumped chakra into the seal on his stomach, but frowned when nothing happened. Naruto's eyes widened when he realized he could barely feel chakra in his body. Wah! He tried again, pushing chakra with more strength, until finally the seal appeared faintly. Something's wrong with my coils, old man. Give me a moment to check something. Without waiting for a response, Naruto sank into his mindscape. When he arrived at the demon's cage, his breath hitched in surprise. Kurama. Naruto rushed forward and easily slipped between the bars. Kurama, what's wrong with you? What happened? The fox's red form had grown in size, but he was trembling and gasping shallow breaths. What the boy could see of his body looked stretched and taut. He was curled up in a tight ball, obviously in extreme pain. Kit, the fox panted. What has happened out there? I cannot concentrate enough to look. Naruto tried to stroke his fur, but snatched his hand away as it burned his skin. I pumped too much chakra into the time seal. We've traveled too far back in time, over 2 decades. Sandame Gigi is alive. That explains my condition. A violent shudder racked Kyuubi's frame. It didn't just rewind time. It transported your body through time and placed you in the past. Placed me in the past? Then why weren't there 2 of me when we tested it in the library? I'm not certain. My guess is that your body replaces or emerges with the past when you reappear. Then what about now? Naruto furrowed his brow. Why am I alive when there isn't a me to replace? It is possible that since there isn't anything to merge with, you remain as your own entity. Naruto took a closer look at the dingy cage around them. What about you? Why are you like this? Naruto gestured at his feverish form. Is it because there's another you in this time? Most likely. Kyuubi paused to curl tighter into himself. His chakra spiked before receding. I believe this is due to the in portion of my chakra. Your drat father sealed my in chakra within the Shinigami and my Wyong chakra in you. However, in this time, your mother holds both the yin and yang. So that means the yin chakra and my mom merged into you when we appeared here, Naruto exclaimed. Are you in pain because of my father's seal? Possibly. His seal was made to hold only in my yang chakra. It currently feels as if I am being strangled. My being is becoming too large to be contained within the existing seal. I've tried to keep it at bay, but using your chakra a minute ago has upset the balance. What if I expand the seal? Naruto asked in panic. Would that work? Adding another 4-symbol seal to make it a 12-tringram seal. I'll infuse a 3-point seal for stabilization. The theory is illogical. Why you can only try. The fox's breathing became even shallower. Hurry, we are running short on time. The seal is about to shatter, and we will both perish. A larger chakra spike flared from Kyuubi's body. Can I do it in Mindscape, or do I need to go back outside? It matters not. Naruto shoved his hand into his pack for the scroll containing all of his materials on sealing. Found it. Tossing everything else aside, he threw open the scroll on spirit sealing. The seal master slammed a kunai into his left hand and dipped his brush into the dripping blood. He mentally materialized a large sheet of paper to duplicate the four-symbol seal. Working as rapidly as possible without making a mistake, he hastily covered the surface with a seal made up of three four-symbol seals and the triangular three-point seal. As a precaution, he added five seal barriers to the corners and center to prevent physical destruction to the seal itself. Once completed, he threw aside the brush and slammed his new seal on top of his father's rapidly fraying seal. With a fleeting hope that it wouldn't blow up in their faces, he pumped in all the chakra he could gather, both QB's and his own. The seal glowed bright red, and suddenly a huge red flash and tremors rocked his mindscape. Karama! He yelled, but his voice could not penetrate the rumbling and creaking of his surroundings. An ear-splitting roar from the convulsing fox shot through his mindscape and jolted up his spine. Following the jolt, sharp agony pulsed in his head. Through his scrunched eyes, Naruto could barely see the ceiling cracking, crumbling, and reforming. Pipes ripped apart, clanking as they hit the ground. Large chunks of concrete tumbled down onto Naruto as he clutched his head and scrambled to flatten himself against the closest wall. Muddy sewer water splashed onto him as the chunks crashed onto the flooded corridor, only to be absorbed by the ground. He grit his teeth against the pain and finally understood what was happening. His mindscape was reshaping to accommodate the new seal and chakra. He could vaguely see the walls elongating. The ceiling rose, and with it the metal cage bars lengthened. On the opposite side of the falling concrete, he could make out the cage widening and the fox growing in size, keening as his body stretched painfully. Kami! His head felt like it was splitting. Naruto sobbed and lamented the destruction of his mindscape. He squeezed his eyes shut in an attempt to stabilize his mind. He hoped his already questionable sanity would survive the trauma. He wished for Kurama's well-being. He begged for survival. He just wanted everything to be better for both him and the QB who had become his most trusted friend, confidant, advisor, brother, father, colleague, and partner in crime. After what felt like hours, the quake eased. As pain receded, he opened his eyes, fearing the damage his mindscape was sure to have suffered. The first thing he noticed was the soft glow. His vision sharpened, and Naruto stared in awe. What the? The sewer was gone, disappeared, transformed. In its place was grass, rolling hills, trees, a sunset. What previously was sewer water had become a flowing spring with fish swimming in its clear water. He felt gentle wind ruffling his hair and saw clouds floating in the sky. How had this become his mindscape? Surely he was dreaming. No one had heard of such a thing happening. He remembered the conversations with Yamanaka and Noichi, who described most minds as a single colored expanse decorated with doors, usually imitating the color of the individual's chakra, with memories and thoughts flashing by. Pure minds, usually children, had unblemished memories, while those of people tainted by evil and insanity had frayed or chipped images, depending on the severity of damage. How could a scarred mind be a peaceful landscape, with memories and thoughts lightly flowing down the tumbling waterfall? Kyubi hummed in relief. Naruto turned to the bijou and saw him lying behind tall, white columns of limestone. Not really a cage, just a barrier between Kyuubi's space and the passage out of his mindscape. He strolled over to the tired fox, past the columns, and rubbed the side of his muzzle. Kurama? Naruto ventured. The fox hummed again. Yes, Naruto. How do you feel? Tired, stable, peaceful. The Jinchuriki's lips curved into a gentle smile. Look around you. Kyuubi cracked open an eye. Impressive. Do you know how this happened? You wished, dear friend. You wished for something better, and in the overhaul, your mind was able to grant that wish. Is this permanent? It is, unless you change the seal again or you lose your sanity. Then we have to make sure my mind stays strong. Yes, Kyuubi replied. Now let me rest. My chakra should have finally begun to heal your remaining injuries. I will call when I am recovered. Okay, sleep well. Naruto pulled himself out of his mindscape and opened his eyes. He looked around the room, the lounge connected to the Hokage's office, and called out to the man he could see through the doorway. Sandame Gigi. The old man, who was not so old as Naruto remembered, paused in his paperwork and raised concerned eyes at the boy lying on the sofa. Uzumaki-kun, how do you feel? Sarutobi strolled over. The boy chuckled wearily. I've heard that question too many times in the past day. I feel good right now compared to several minutes ago. How long have I been out? You arrived in the office past 9 this morning. It is now nearing midnight. Wow. He couldn't think of anything else to say. You were convulsing, and your unstable chakra continued to spike all throughout the afternoon. I considered moving you to the hospital, but kept you here to avoid an uproar and rumors, the Sandame explained. Would you mind telling me what happened? Naruto nodded tiredly. I know that Uzumaki Kushina is the Jinchuriki right now, and you might have guessed that she's my mother. When I popped into this time, the two Kyuubis merged. My Kyuubi took over as dictated by the time seal. He's made up of only yang chakra, but her Kyuubi contains both yin and yang. In the merge, the yin was absorbed into my body with the yang, overloading the seal on my Bijuu's cage. And I presume you were able to resolve the problem? I observed the seal changing during the peak of your convulsions. Yeah, I've studied a bit of spirit sealing since I'm a Jinchuriki, so I came up with a way to strengthen the seal and stabilize the rest of the chakra. Naruto grinned smugly. I gotta say, I'm pretty awesome. Sarutobi began to chuckle, which gradually broke into a full, outright laugh. I must agree with you. Utsumaki-kun, I have seen enough to know you are being truthful. I officially reinstate you as a shinobi of Konohagakure, retaining your previous status and rank. Welcome to my Konoha. The hunter/Jounin's grin grew wider. Yes, sir. And Gigi, I'm going to keep calling you old man, so you have to call me Naruto. Just Naruto. I shall do so, Naruto, Sarutobi conceded. Before you retire for the night, we must devise a cover story and find you a place to stay. I think I should change my last name since Uzumaki Kushina is an orphan. Correct. What would you suggest? How about Yuzahara, since I'll probably forget if it's too different. And I definitely want to keep my first name. I like it too much. We don't have to lie about me being an orphan. Kai have been placed under a deep cover mission in Kusa since your team found me around there. I specialize in infiltration and reconnaissance, so that'd make sense, right? That is satisfactory for now. I will fabricate the appropriate documents at a later time. Now I must find you accommodation. I think it would be best to place you in the Yanbu headquarters to minimize questioning due to your sudden appearance. Naruto paused with slight discomfort. I guess that works. He donned his mask. Akashiori, return at some time tomorrow, and we will discuss the details of your duties. Rest well. Saratobi gave him a kind smile before calling in an escort to take the hunter Nin to his new home. Thanks, old man. I'll see you tomorrow. With that, Naruto followed the Yanbu escort out of the office. Naruto flopped onto the comfortable bed in the sparsely decorated room. The trip to headquarters located at Konoha outskirts had been awkwardly silent after Naruto's first several questions received one-word responses. Once they arrived, he had been allowed to choose a room from the list of uninhabited ones. He carefully chose a sixth-floor window room facing the indoor training facility. The room was just taller than the facility, tactically providing him an alternate exit from headquarters. The blonde stared at the seal containing QB and carefully reviewed what had happened. He had messed up his time jutsu, ended up 24 years in the past, doubled QB's chakra, reinforced the seal, gotten his job back, and acquired a home. He had been incredibly lucky. Lucky that he had survived. Lucky that it was Konoha Nin that had discovered him. Lucky that he had fixed the seal in time. Lucky that the Hokage had accepted him. And lucky that he had a warm bed to sleep in. He had never before been so thankful for his awe-inspiring good fortune. However, it had also been bad fortune to have landed in the past in the first place. This thought threw him into a sudden bout of depression. Naruto knew, though he refused to admit it yet, that there was no way to return to his time. By landing in the past, he had erased his past. His slate had been wiped clean. It was impossible to jump forward in time, only jump back. You can't jump into what hasn't happened. And since he had been thrown into a world before he was born, he could no longer take the place of this reality's Naruto. There was a possibility of successfully replacing baby Naruto once he was born, but that was years ahead. Regardless, he was never going to see his precious people again. There would be versions of them within this reality, but they wouldn't be his precious people. It wouldn't be his Irika sensei, his Sasuke, his Kakashi sensei, his Tsunade Baba, his Ero Sennin. They would all belong to baby Naruto, and even if he did replace him, it would never be the same. Naruto felt tears collect in his eyes. He wanted to curl up and cry. But what good would crying do? It wouldn't improve the situation one bit, so he did his best to hold back. Just let go, kid. Naruto clenched his jaw. No, it may not help to cry, but suppressing will only hurt you. You know that. QB's soothing voice rumbled from within. Just let go. He choked. That's it, let all out. Let out your grief, the fox coaxed softly. There is no need to be strong right now. Your spirit is already strong, so never fear vulnerability behind closed doors. Just cleanse yourself of your anguish. Naruto couldn't hold back any longer. Tears flowed down his cheeks as near-silent sobs racked his body. He gasped for air and thought of all the times he shared ramen with Irika sensei. He remembered the terrible D-rank missions with his team, trying to peek at Kakashi sensei's face, saving Ero Sennin from angry naked women, sharing quiet moments with Gaara, the battles fought alongside his precious people. So many memories which were now mere memories and no longer reality. It hit him that he had lost every single one of his precious people in one single moment, and the pain tore at his heart. All for one insignificant hunter's mask. Kurama pulled the boy into his mindscape and wrapped a comforting tale around Naruto's shaking form. He could only provide warmth and promise of companionship. The fox was Naruto's last living remnant of his past, and they both knew there would be more grief to come when he met his precious people as strangers. "Q, it hurts," Naruto whispered. "I know, kid. I know." I wanted to stop hurting. Rain began to drizzle in the cloudy mindscape. "I know, and I also know you can overcome this. But I don't want to forget." He sounded so young. "You don't have to. Will you help me remember?" "I will. Always. Promise." "I promise. We shall never be apart. Forever. For all of your mortal life." "Then what about you?" "Perhaps I will accompany you to the afterlife." "That sounds nice." "Yes, it does. Now sleep. I will be here when you wake." "I love you, Q." "I love you as well, my dear, dear friend." Hmm. Naruto's tremors faded as his breathing evened out. QB watched over him in the dreary landscape of the mind. He gently licked away the last of Naruto's tears and settled down to rest his own drained body. It will be better tomorrow. Chapter 3, Roller Coaster. "Crap, crap, crap. You're doing a fantastic job of making good impressions," Naruto thought contemptuously as he leapt from roof to roof. He had woken 18 hours after falling in a fitful sleep, making it 6 in the evening already, which was a considerably late and rude time to request any meeting with any authority. Not that he had cared before. He cursed. This Sandaime hadn't developed the affectionate leniency towards him that his old man had, and probably never will, his mind despaired. Waking up to the approaching sunset, the blonde had eyed his disgusting hunternine uniform before throwing it aside for thorough scrubbing and slipped into an extra set stored in one of his scrolls. Now heading to the Hokage Tower, he could finally appreciate the beauty of the village bathed in orange light. Peace. Everything felt so peaceful. There was no evidence of strife or disrepair like the Konoha in his time. None of them knew of the Third Shinobi World War already building in the shadows. Civilians lived without fear, and Shinobi joked about missions. He watched children playing in the academy playground, so similar to the scenes from his own childhood before shit hit the fan. A tiny smile formed behind his mask. "I have to protect this." "I hope you enjoyed a good night's rest, Naruto." Sarutobi chuckled at the rude apology tumbling out of the boy's mouth. "Actually, yeah, I feel refreshed, but I'm having major problems with chakra control. I might have dislodged a bunch of roof tiles on my way here." Naruto confessed sheepishly, scratching the back of his neck with a nervous arm. Sarutobi nodded in amusement. "Yes, a side effect of chakra overload. I will place you on post-mission recess for 1 week. Spend that time settling down and training. I expect a detailed report on your progress at the conclusion of the week. Then, you'll be assigned duties depending upon how far you have recovered with your control." The Hokage formed a suspiciously innocent smile. There is always need for mission filing and catching wayward cats. Naruto's expression turned to one of horror. "Please, not mission filing or the cat. I'll work hard, so we won't ever need to consider that. He shuddered mentally. Q. I bet 10 bowls of ramen that it's Tora's great-grandfather. Pity there is no way to prove it, the sleepy fox replied with a rumbling chuckle. I will also need to assess your skills. We will schedule theory and combat exams once you recover. You will also need to be evaluated mentally and physically. Naruto felt like whimpering. Exams. Have mercy. He hated those exams. He hated exams in general. They didn't sit right with him, and he didn't want to sit for them either. It was a long-standing hate-hate relationship in which he always lost, no matter how many times he tried to sneak his way out. Saratobi couldn't stifle his laughter at the poor boy's desperately begging eyes. He had suffered through the same pain and dread when he was part of the ANBU many years before, which was why he was sympathetic to their suffering but felt next to no remorse at assigning those exams. All effective leaders needed a sadistic streak in them to succeed, after all. On the other hand, this boy looked like he needed a little break from life's own sadistic streak. Very well, I will be lenient this once. This impromptu assessment in June will replace the coming semi-annual fall evaluations, meaning your next full evaluation will be in the spring, 8 months from now. Is that satisfactory? Yeah, you're the best. Thank you, old man. The blonde grinned ear to ear, bouncing out of his misery as quickly as he had fallen in. Saratobi noted with a frown. He would need to ask Yamanaka-kun to perform a more thorough mental examination for this one. Let us continue on to more serious matters. Saratobi's countenance shifted into one of powerful authority. I met with a frantic Uzumaki Kushina-san earlier today. She confirmed Kyubi is missing. She reported feeling him being warped out at around the time you arrived in this timeline. I assured her that everything is fine, but she may still be sensitive to its demonic chakra, and therefore it will be best for you to stay away from her for now. We must label Kyubi's condition, as well as your background, an SS class secret, only known between the Hokage and yourself. And if we wish for another to learn of this information, it will only be through both our approvals. Naruto donned his hunter mask, suddenly becoming Akashiori, the professional operative. He'd learned his lesson on idiocy just 2 days ago, and it was a lesson he wasn't going to ignore for a long while. Furthermore, we must decide how to proceed with your knowledge of our future. While it will be of great assistance in political affairs, I am aware of the dangerous consequences of meddling with time. To maintain our advantage, we must not be hasty. He paused. How much and how well do you know of the shinobi history? I was required to extensively study both history and politics in preparation for my possible future role in the village. While some details may have slipped my memory, I retain a clear timeline of events, catalysts, and outcomes. Future role? Elaborate. I was a candidate for the Rokudaime Hokage, selected by the Godaime Hokage. However, I know that is no longer feasible. Instead, I could be of better use as personal advisor to the Hokage. Naruto hesitated before continuing carefully. I do not fully trust the council. Saratobi immediately understood. Naruto was giving his first hint, warning him of internal conflict or possible treason within his ranks. He nodded gravely. Your proposition has merit, and your counsel will be a valuable asset to the village. But first, I must ask you, how can I trust your word and intentions? Naruto, tense before squaring his shoulders and walking purposefully to stand in front of the Sandaime Hokage, leader of his beloved home. Hokage-sama. The hunter Nin held his mask over his heart. He kneeled on one knee at the Sandaime's feet and bowed his head. I swear in the name of Oinari-sama that I will not intentionally misguide Kanahagakure or abuse my knowledge of the future for personal or malicious gain. I will protect Kanahagakure from long-lasting strife and destruction to the best of my abilities. I have in my possession a divine contract to hold me to my word. Through the contract, I tie my loyalties to Kanahagakure's Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Only by order of the Hokage in office can my loyalties be reassigned to future Hokages of Kanahagakure. I will never go back on my word. This is my Nindo. Sarutobi stared at the complex man in front of him with respect. This man was offering to bind himself to this village by the highest order of contracts, one which would have the great fox deity curse him to hell if breached. His unwavering honor and integrity were astounding, and Sarutobi could now clearly see why Uzumaki Naruto had been nominated for Hokage's ship. The will of fire burned strongly within him. To respect this extraordinary young man and the honor. Yes, receiving his protection was a great honor bestowed upon the Hokage in this village. Sarutobi gladly accepted the offered pledge. Uzumaki Naruto, also known under Akashiori and Yuzahara Naruto, I receive your vow of loyalty and appoint you as my personal advisor. You will answer to Kanahagakure's Hokage and only to the Hokage. Naruto extracted the contract scroll and held it out for Sarutobi to finalize. When both had signed in blood, a small seal in the form of a flame resembling a fox marked his left arm to match the Hunter Nin tattoo on his right as evidence of his dual pledge and bond. From the shadows, Naruto would guide the will of fire and eliminate enemies of Konoha. The blonde raised intense blue eyes to meet the Sandaime's wise ones and held the gaze steadily, wordlessly communicating his determination. Then Naruto grinned widely, abruptly shattering the mood. Sandaimeji, I'm hungry. Wanna treat me to Ichiraku ramen? His eyes transformed into those of a puppy dog begging to be fed. There's an Ichiraka here, right? He looked mortified by the idea of ramen Ichiraku not existing. After a moment of awkward silence, Sarutobi tossed his head back and guffawed. I have not laughed this much in years, Gaki. You will be a joy to have around. Let's head to dinner, and yes, it'll be my treat. Worry not. Ramen Ichiraku has a long history in Konoha. Great. You better get your wallet ready because I eat a lot. Naruto was once again lying comfortably on his bed, deep in thought. Tonight, Naruto examined the seals on his arms. The left held the flame of Konoha, and the right held the swirl of an assassin. He had always been proud of his hunter tattoo, distinguishable from an ANBU tattoo only by its placement on the opposite arm. Now he sported another tattoo to be proud of, although this seal would be the heaviest. The assassin marks, simple but elegant, held meanings only understood between those who wore them, but he alone carried the weight of the flame. He feared he was not ready to shoulder the responsibility, yet he knew he would be ready out of necessity. He just needed to believe in the flame. Throughout Naruto's short life, his loyalty to Konoha had never faltered because to him, Konoha was his precious people. His loyalty to the Sandaime had also never faltered because to him, the old man was the guardian of Konoha, of his precious people. Now he had knowledge and ability to express his gratitude to the grandfatherly figure and precious friends who had guided him through childhood. This time he would be the guide, whether it was for the people of his past or for the people of his present was irrelevant. There was so much to protect. The smiles on people's faces were like a balm for his abused soul, and he had been reminded of the happiness twice tonight. He had felt contentment in sharing the joy of ramen with Sandaime Gigi and exchanging stories, several of which he had already heard before but enjoyed hearing again regardless. And seeing Tucci of Ichiraku had been an unexpected but pleasant surprise. He was so young, only in his 20s. The man was apprenticed to the current owner of Ichiraku, his father Tuji, a kind man who handed out generous smiles so similar to Tucci's in the future. Oh, what he wouldn't give to guzzle Tucci's ramen next to Irika-sensei or watch Sasuke attempt to eat elegantly. Ramen isn't made to be eaten strand by strand, team. Slurp it like you mean it. He had shouted only 2 months ago. The time traveler let out a chuckle before sinking into melancholy. Those desires would be forever beyond his grasp. Irika-sensei would never again be his teacher, and Sasuke would never again be his rival. They would never again share the same relationships and connect in the same way. He growled at himself. At this rate, he was going to fall into chronic depression. If he didn't snap himself out of it, he would hinder his own growth as a shinobi and integration into this world. Jumping off the bed, he changed into comfortable sweatpants and t-shirt and headed to the laundry room with his blood-soaked uniform. This would give him something to do. Clothes this bloody had to first be scrubbed thoroughly by hand, and only then could they be dumped into the wash. Naruto sat before a bucket of water, scrubbing angrily. Anger is good, better than nostalgia, much better than grief. The water tinted dark brown as blood melted out of the stained fabric and a coppery stench filled room. His Hunter-nin uniform was the favorite set of clothing he owned. It was identical to the ANBU uniform except in color. Whereas the ANBU vest and arm guards were steel gray, Hunter garb was fully dark gray, allowing agents to meld with shadows at night and blend into shadows in daylight. To him, the dark gray represented protection and safety. It allowed him to hide, both physically and emotionally, when he knew he wasn't welcome. It also allowed him acceptance among those who may not have accepted Uzumaki Naruto. It was the shield he carried when he was too tired to fight back. Naruto whipped around to face the shout, almost appending the bucket. So you're the one leaking chakra all over the place. The Hunter-nin choked as a figure came into view. The man had blonde hair and bright blue eyes. Blue like his own. This was no doubt Namikaze's Minato, his father, Konoha's Yellow Flash, the future Yondaime Hokage, savior of this world, the bastard who died sealing Kyuubi into him. Hello, is anyone in there? The man peered intently at his face. Naruto snapped out his daze. Sorry, what? I said that you're leaking chakra. I haven't been able to sleep because of it. The Jinchuriki took in the image of the man, not sure how he should feel. Here was the man who had been his idol. But this was also the man who was responsible for much of his misery. Naruto may have resolved things with his father when they met in his mind, but he couldn't simply forget the deep scars, even when offered sincere apologies and heartfelt tears. Naruto had rarely felt hate, but he often felt resentment whenever he recalled the beatings and hurtful words from sneering villagers. There have been times where he was consumed by resentment from which only his precious people could pull him out. But this Minato was an innocent stranger. It was wrong to feel anger toward this man who had not yet done anything. Taking a deep breath, he decided to treat this Namikaze Minato as he would any stranger on the street. But he wasn't ready to deal with this stranger yet. I was about to search for you and ask what's wrong, but your chakra faded out before I could. Lucky I bumped into you here. Are you all right? Ie mifine. Naruto stuttered and flushed at his own awkwardness. That's a blatant lie. Minato countered firmly. Your chakra is crying. No, it's howling. Even shinobi who've lost their family have Kama chakra. Naruto looked down and began scrubbing in earnest. Well, lost something precious. Yeah. Do you want to talk about it? Minato asked softly. Ugh. Naruto decided the uniform had been sufficiently scrubbed and hastily dumped it in an empty machine. It always helps to get it off your shoulders, and I'd be happy to lend an ear. It's all right. Sorry, I've got a Gagano. After making sure his laundry was cycling, Naruto dashed from a room as if hounded by all 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. He ran 6 flights at full speed to his room and slammed the door, panicking on the emotional roller coaster that never seemed to end. He slid slowly down to the floor and leaned his head back on the locked and bolted door, attempting the futile task of calming his breathing. What a mess. He had lost his entire world. He lived near his father. He couldn't control his chakra, and apparently his chakra was howling. I'm messed up. The walls felt like they were closing in, and he had to get out of there. Hurriedly changing into his extra uniform and donning his mask, Naruto leapt out of his window. His dark form melted into the shadows as he headed to the forest of death, where there would be trees and predators to blow up. He needed to make sure the stranger with blonde hair and blue eyes would have nothing to complain about after tonight. Minato swept through headquarters in confusion. He couldn't find him anywhere. After the incident in the laundry room, he had sat frozen, thinking about the stranger for half an hour until the machines beeped. No one, aside from his enemies, had ever run so quickly to escape him. The kid hadn't returned to dry his clothes, and he was pretty sure he wouldn't be back anytime soon. Partly out of courtesy and a much larger part out of curiosity, Minato decided to dry the Hunter Nin's uniform for him and hold on to it for safekeeping. Or he just wanted an excuse to meet to the tortured young man again. He felt like a budding stalker when he checked the roster for the new guy's identity. Yuzahara Naruto. Interesting name. Why is he staying with Yenbyu? By noon, his frustration was about to reach its boiling point. He couldn't feel Naruto's turbulent chakra anywhere in the building or anywhere in the village. In fact, he must have left the village. That wasn't possible. Hokage-sama would never send anyone so unstable out on a mission. Obviously, he was both mentally and physically traumatized. Furthermore, all shinobi required permission to leave the village. Minato doubted the Hokage would have approved that either. There was a third option which was just as impossible. Naruto could have gained control over his chakra, but no one could fix something so out of sync in mere hours. After waiting 3 more hours with no sign of the smaller blonde, Minato gave in and made a visit to the Hokage Tower. Hokage-sama. Good afternoon, Minato-kun. What can I do for you today? Sir, I would like to make an inquiry about a fellow ninja. Sarutobi arched an eyebrow. Is that so? And who might this ninja be? Yuzuhara Naruto. His eyebrow rose another inch. And for what reasons are you requesting his information? He is staying in a room next to mine in AMBU headquarters. Due to his current lack of chakra control, I felt Yuzuhara-san's emotional agony leaking out. Coincidentally, I met him last night while doing laundry, but he all but ran from the room. I may be encroaching on his privacy, but I would like to help him. I cannot comprehend how he retains his sanity. Sarutobi eyed the AMBU captain thoughtfully and nodded. Only because I know you will not abuse this knowledge. I will provide you with the bare minimum. Yuzuhara Naruto is a hunter nin of 1 year, 18 years old and very efficient. He returned 2 days ago from a long-term mission. As you can tell, he has indeed suffered emotional trauma and life-threatening distress to his chakra coils. I fully trust him with my life, as should you. You will have to discover anything more on your own. I strongly advise discretion while handling his case. Minato's eyes widened in surprise at the Hokage's high praise of the elusive hunter nin. Thank you, sir. Additionally, he will undergo a full shinobi assessment in a week or 2, Sarutobi hinted. Hokage-sama. Minato bowed deeply. Please allow me to face him for the combat evaluation. Sarutobi smiled. I was hoping you would say that. Permission granted. Do be careful with him. Yuzuhara-kun is a fine young man, but even I do not know the full extent of damage he is suffering. Yes, sir. I will do my best to help. Is that all, Minato-kun? There is one more thing. Minato shuffled in embarrassment. I can't seem to locate Yuzuhara-san. It seems as if he is no longer in the village. Oh, he is able to elude even you. Sarutobi chuckled. He is most certainly still in the village. You will just need to put more effort into finding him. Minato left the Hokage Tower reassured, but also feeling like a full-fledged stalker. He only met Yuzuhara less than a day ago and was already developing unhealthy obsessive tendencies. A week later, Minato still hadn't seen hide nor hair of the younger blonde. He'd been on constant lookout between missions, but found nothing. Nothing at all. He fumed when Sandaime-sama insisted Naruto was in the village, but wouldn't tell him where. He had looked everywhere. One thing was certain. The kid's chakra was perfectly under control now. For heaven's sake, if he, AMBU captain of Konoha's 4th best AMBU unit, couldn't detect him, Naruto most definitely deserved his position on the Hunter Nin force, which demanded high prerequisites of control. Minato, a confident and talented shinobi elite, only barely admitted the blow to his pride. Now he was again standing before Sandaime-sama's desk, waiting patiently for a mystery guest who was already 10 minutes late for the meeting. Hokage-sama, I am curious as to who. Minato began, but was interrupted by a figure flying through the open window and somersaulting into a crouch. Hokage Gigi, sorry I'm late. Naruto gasped for air. I got held up by a pack of giant hyenas. Yuzohara-san, Minato exclaimed, recognizing the blonde hair and scarred cheeks. Naruto froze. Oh, hello. Right, we haven't been introduced yet. The larger blonde turned to the amused Hokage, sitting behind the desk. Hokage-sama, if I may. Go ahead, Minato-kun. Minato turned to fully face the younger boy and nodded his head with a charming smile. My name is Namikaze Minato, age 19, and part of the Ambu Force. It's nice to finally meet you properly. Yuzahara Naruto, 18. Hokage-sama told me you've been a hunter nin for a year now. That's impressive, Minato praised. Well, your uniform means you're an AMBU captain, right? To rise through the ranks. That's even more impressive. Maybe, but you're good. Really good. I couldn't sense your chakra at all. Where were you all week? I was around. Naruto answered evasively. Minato huffed. Well, you certainly made yourself scarce. Naruto replied with one word. Apes. 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 You don't mean the nin apes in the forest of death, do you? Minato threw an incredulous look at Naruto's flat stare. Then I was right to worry about you. Worry about me? Naruto cocked his head in confusion. That's right. I was worried since you went missing for an entire week. But we hardly know each other, which still means we know each other to some degree. So I'm allowed to worry, Minato stated resolutely. The corners of Naruto's lips twitched upward. You're weird, but I appreciate the sentiment. Minato's eyes lit up as he grinned. So what were you doing all week with those giant nin apes in that mad jungle? With a deliberate cough, Sarutobi cut him off. Minato-kun, you will have time to question Naruto later. Now that we have been properly introduced and brought up to date, we shall move on to the next order of business. Naruto, your assessment is coming up. What progress have you made in your recovery? I'm fully recovered, old man. Naruto smirked. Old man? Minato repeated in his head, directing another incredulous look at the ninja next to him. Sarutobi, on the other hand, was obviously untroubled by the rude nickname and nodded with an approving smile. Wonderful. Please submit a written report at a later time. Let's first schedule your assessment for 2 days from today. Minato-kun will be evaluating you in combat, which will take place at 9 in the morning at AMBU Training Ground 4. The rest of your assessment will follow throughout the day. He examined the exposed faces of the two talented shinobi for signs of disagreement. Naruto's face had fallen into a frown, clearly unhappy about the prospect of facing off against Minato. I will treat the winner to 5 free meals, Sarutobi added slyly. Naruto perked up. Really? 5? Yes. All you can eat. All you can eat, Naruto whispered reverently. The hunter nin grinned widely. All right then, anything for my ramen. See you later, old man. With a mock salute, he hopped out the window before anything else could be said. Minato stared owlishly, stunned by the first happy expression he had seen on Naruto's face. Minato-kun, Sarutobi inquired. Oh, I apologize. The blonde tore his gaze from the empty window and bowed. Thank you for the opportunity, Hokage-sama. Enjoy the rest of your day. Pretending not to hear the Sandame's mumbled complaints about paperwork, he jumped through the window and swept keen eyes across rooftops for any sign of Naruto. The image of the grin warmed his heart, leaving him relieved that the younger man was still able to smile. Over there, he increased his pace. Yuzuhara-san, wait up, Minato called out. The figure in dark, gray Hunter-nin garb slowed to a halt. Namikaze-san, Naruto greeted politely. Hello again. Minato landed soundlessly in front of him. Call me Minato. I wanted to ask if you'd like to have lunch with me. I'll let you choose the place. Wary eyes flitted side to side, as if searching for an escape. I don't know, I really have to train. It's just lunch, Minato pressed. You have to eat at some point, right? So why not with me? Why? Why what? Why do you keep following me? Minato looked put out by the question. That's obvious. I want to get to know you better, of course. And I want to be friends with you. You seem like a great guy. Naruto studied the other's face through narrowed eyes. He couldn't understand why his father was focusing his attention on him. Had he given any reason to be singled out? They only had minutes of contact, 15 at most. He wondered if Minato was just stringing him along or if he genuinely wanted to be friends. Here was a person who could make friends with anyone he wanted, a person who everyone would love to be friends with. But here he was attempting the task with the one person who didn't want his friendship. When reading only sincerity, Naruto's eyes softened. All right, what do you think of ramen at Ichiraku? Minato happily nodded his agreement, and they were off, running over the buildings silently as one blur in the sky. Before arriving at the ramen stand, Naruto paused to cast an expert hinge on himself, changing his appearance to a nondescript jounin in his 40s. Minato looked at Naruto curiously, asking for an explanation with an arched eyebrow and slight tilt of his head. I'm keeping my return hidden for now, Naruto explained. No one aside from you, the old man, and the director of ANBU headquarters knows who I am and that I'm back. I haven't even reported to the commander of Hunter forces yet. As they claimed corner seats, Minato wondered aloud. Why do you call Sandame-sama, old man? I'm surprised you can get away with it. He usually looks down on disrespect. Naruto shrugged. I've always called him that. Then he snickered. I was pretty rude when I was a kid, had no sense of respect at all, and after a few months, the name just stuck. Minato was ecstatic. The tight-lipped Hunter-nin was finally opening up to him, and the concept of friendship didn't seem so impossible anymore. As they waited for their orders, Minato asked casually, I'm curious. What were you doing for 1 week in the Forest of Death? Training. Minato huffed at the one-word answers that Naruto seemed to be fond of. Would you mind telling me more? Naruto chuckled at the ANBU captain's frustration. I was in training ground 44 doing basic chakra exercises for the first 2 days. My coils were shot, so I had to start from scratch. Naruto grimaced. Like tree walking, water walking, containing chakra to specific body parts while doing physical training. On the 3rd and 4th days, I worked on ninjutsu. It took me a while to stop accidentally obliterating the trees. The next 2 days were spent playing with tenketsu points of attacking animals, and the last day was spent channeling chakra into physical forms. Wow, quite intense. All that in 1 week. Naruto shrugged again, digging enthusiastically into his miso ramen. Pausing between bites, he stated firmly, "I believe hard work trumps innate genius." Minato nodded in agreement, chewing thoughtfully on his own noodles. He himself had been labeled a genius, but what good would a quick mind have done for him if he merely sat on his ass and twiddled his thumbs at scrolls? Wait, if you were working on basic chakra control for the first 2 days, why couldn't I sense you? Naruto grinned in triumph and ordered another bowl. What did I say back at the office? Apes. Ninmapis. Chakra. Correct, young grasshopper. Naruto answered cheekily. I stayed all week with Neen apes, so their naturally thick chakra covered my own. Neen apes have chakra coils like humans do, but can't control them at all. They gave me protection as long as I proved I was friendly. Over more ramen, they shared their many trials in the forest of death. What was supposed to be an awkward 30-minute lunch extended 2 more hours for more bowls and 2 orders of the newly imported sponge cake called kasudara from the far land of Japan country. As they exited the ramen stand, the AMBU captain posed a question about Naruto's fighting style. That is a secret. Naruto answered mysteriously with a mischievous smirk. You'll find out during our fight, but you better be prepared. I'm going to sweep your feet from under you. Like I told Sandame Gigi, I'll do anything for my ramen, especially free ramen. Minato acquiesced with a laugh, happy that Naruto was comfortable enough to joke around. All right, Fine. I won't ask. Naruto frowned as his drat conscience kicked in. He recalled that he already knew several of Minato's moves and felt uncomfortable with the unfair advantage. Actually, I'll tell you one thing. I'm a master of Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Solid clones. Minato's eyebrows rose in surprise at the seemingly straightforward technique. Well, I can't wait to see what you can do with them. I'll tell you something of myself. Naruto waved his hand to cut him off. Don't. I've heard the impressive rumors about ANBU Captain Namake's Minato. I just want to make it a fair fight. Minato smiled, impressed by Naruto's sportsmanship. They strolled around a corner, walking aimlessly, when Naruto saw a child who could only be identified as Yumino Irika. The child no older than 6 or 7 years was walking towards them, holding hands with both his mother and father, chatting happily about nothing and everything. The proud father suddenly swept the boy up into his arms, and the laughing mother handed the giggling boy a new set of child-safe kunai. Naruto couldn't stop himself from faltering. He made a barely noticeable misstep before steeling his mind to regain control over his body and continue walking nonchalantly as if nothing had happened. But Minato had noticed. He noticed the slight tensing of Naruto's shoulders, how his breath had hitched, and how the hinge had rippled for a moment. There was no denying that something was wrong, and it happened when Naruto saw the happy family of 3. Minato was sure this was directly related to the lost Naruto had unintentionally let slip in the laundry room. Abruptly, Naruto's skittish awkwardness returned, but this time it was accompanied by thick tension in the air. To anyone else, he looked like any laid-back, between missions shinobi strolling down the street with their habitual alertness. But Minato could feel the subtle turmoil escaping Naruto's chakra control and the clench of his jaw. Namikaze-san, There are 2 days left to the assessment. I should get back to training to make sure our fight is worth your while. Naruto shunshined to the forest of death to scream his heart out for the loss of his own family. 2 days crawled by for Minato, but passed too quickly in Naruto's opinion. Following the incident with the child Irika, Naruto's chakra control had slipped for hours. He could physically feel his own chakra howling, and this time, even the generally lenient Nin apes refused him entranced to their territory. He supposed it didn't matter anymore, since Minato already knew where he was. So instead, he shredded trees and giant, human-eating spiders with angry chakra whips and cried silently in a tight huddle at night. When the two blondes met up at ANBU training ground 2 days later, Minato mentioned nothing about the volatile chakra he sensed faintly throughout the past 2 days. He merely greeted Naruto warmly and received a tiny smile in return. Naruto examined the terrain around him as he tactfully replaced his Hunter Nin vest and arm guards with AMBU issue. There were boulders to one side, a small pond lay on the other, and the rough ground was hard and uneven. He could work with this, Naruto thought, as excitement of battling his somewhat legendary father grew. The Sandaime arrived at the clearing followed by 2 men and a woman. Naruto recognized the features of one man to be a Yamanaka and guessed he would be evaluating the condition of his tattered heart and fractured mind, which had been carefully glued back together by the strongest of his and Kurama's will. The others were introduced as examiners for the physical, medical, and written tests, and all examiners would act as witnesses throughout the entire assessment. Okay, what do you think? As long as nothing triggers memories of the past, you'll be fine. Naruto began warm-up stretches. How do you think I'll fare against my father? I only know your father as he was at age 25. If you fought the older Namikaze Minato, you would last perhaps 15 minutes. However, I sense that you can evenly match the current version. Use your insane luck, creativity, and stamina to your advantage. Unpredictability is most effective against one as disciplined as he. What if something flips a trigger and I lose control? Should I pull out or endure? If it is a minor loss of control, I will help you reground yourself. If it is something more, I will warn you to pull out. If it is extreme, I will pull you out myself. In your case, loss of mental and emotional control is a danger to you and everyone in the vicinity. Naruto sent the fox a mental nod of gratitude. Shall we get started? Sarutobi laid out the rules. You have a time limit of 2 hours. The fight, limited to this training ground, will end once either is unable to fight or unconscious. As this is an evaluation of skill and reasoning during combat, do not aim to kill. And the winner is rewarded 5 free meals, the Hokage added as an afterthought. Combat assessment. Yuzahara Naruto versus Namikaze Minato. Begin. Neither fighter moved. They stood silently, sizing each other with intense, critical eyes. Uncharacteristically, the typically patient Minato was the first to burst into action. He threw a punch, which Naruto fluidly brushed aside and returned with a jab. Minato twisted sideways to shift around the attack, but felt something tug at his feet. A moment later, he was airborne. Minato yelped in surprise before flipping over and catching himself. Huh, I told you I'd sweep your feet from under you. Naruto was bent over laughing from where he leaned against a boulder. Ow! Minato stared, flabbergasted. At the very beginning, you didn't think I was just standing there enjoying the view, did you? Naruto teased, wagging his eyebrows. A light shade of pink dusted Minato's cheeks as he registered the insinuation. What's that important ninja rule? Look underneath the underneath, the hunter Nin explained mirthfully. I just took a bit more literally than most. I don't understand. Minato frowned and looked to the four audience members. They didn't seem to have any clue as to what happened either. It had looked like Minato suddenly slipped as one does on ice. You didn't pass through my guard. Fighters are often most off guard at the very beginning since they're so focused on their opponent. Naruto explained lazily. I was lucky that you made it even easier for me. Think about what you know of me and my training. You have large chakra stores and incredible chakra control. That's right. And I told you I spent an entire day channeling chakra into physical forms. Minato gaped. You sent chakra underground, but I've never heard of anyone pulling off something so precise. Maybe I don't mean, but I can only do it standing still. The hardest part is finding you with chakra so I can connect with you. I was extending chakra feelers underground, waiting for you to step on one of them. I just wrapped it around your feet and yanked. Hard. Naruto made an exaggerated, jerking motion with his arm. Ingenious. Sarutobi murmured under his breath. Okay, enough wasting time. There's ramen on the line here. This time, Naruto charged and engaged Minato in a full-on taijutsu spar. While Minato utilized the most flawless display of the flowing fist style he had ever seen, Naruto's taijutsu looked like a strange mix of long fist and an unknown style, which left viewers wanting for more. The fluid strikes were so aggressive that they kept Minato on the defensive. But every now and then Naruto would make a slicing motion that seemed to sweep almost unnoticeably longer than necessary. After watching it happen several more times, Minato reevaluated. It wasn't a mistake, and it certainly didn't make the impact any less deadly. There just seemed to be more to them. The hit intentionally extended past the target point, but he couldn't see why Naruto would incorporate unnecessary movement into his form. He leapt away from his opponent and raised a hand to signal a pause. Yuzahara-san, I have a question for you. Naruto cocked his head to the side. Do you use a short-range weapon? The hunter Nin looked at him in surprise. I use a wakizashi, which is part of my Deus Ho, but I lost it in the last mission. Minato nodded. You sometimes use sweeping motions which fit into your form, but extend a little farther than optimal. I'm guessing you often incorporate short sword kenjutsu into your fights. Those motions would be even more deadly if you held a weapon. Yeah, I haven't had time to replace it. You're right, I do feel dissatisfied with my attacks. I guess my body and mind are still a bit jumbled if I'm affected by muscle memory. Wait a moment. Minato dug into the pack to pull out a containment scroll from which he unsealed a short sword. Here, use this. Since this is an evaluation, we want to see your best form. Naruto studied the beautifully forged sword in his hands and smiled softly. Thanks. They started again, blurring in and out so quickly that the bystanders, who were elite shinobi themselves, had difficulty discerning their positions. Naruto's taijutsu now felt complete and was certainly more deadly. With sword in hand, The form was seamless between its flow and unpredictability. He eliminated the wide transitions between a taijutsu attack and a swipe of the blade, often aiming for two hits in one attack. Minato grimaced at his own performance. He hadn't been this pressed in a very long time, especially against a younger fighter. Most of his attacks were countered by Naruto's offensive moves. And that sword, Kami, he already hated that sword. It always appeared at the worst times in the worst places in the most unpredictable manner. Minato may be more skilled, but Naruto was aggressive and wild, sometimes throwing the ANBU captain off balance and forcing an opening. It was time to up his game. Kawarimi Katon, Inden Flame Bullet. Minato performed two jutsu in quick succession, first switching with a rock at the other end of the clearing, then shooting compressed blasts of fire. Naruto dodged and bared his canines in an eager, feral grin. So we're finally adding ninjutsu. Futon, Shinkajioka Vacuum Sphere. Forming one-handed seals, the Hunter-nin blew out wind chakra at and around Minato, trapping him with a barrage of bullet-like wind. By instinct, Minato was able to twist around almost all, but one bullet pierced his shoulder and another scratched the fabric over his thigh. Kanashivari no Jutsu, Temporary Paralysis Technique. Unable to dodge in time, Naruto's body suddenly froze as if restrained by taut ropes, arms glued to his sides, and legs refusing to move no matter how hard he struggled. He cursed loudly as Minato charged at him with a chakra-reinforced kunai. Naruto flicked his fingers, the only appendages retaining mobility, in Minato's direction, and materialized chakra whips perfected over the last week of training to trap the ANBU captain in the same manner he himself was. Once the man was contained, he silently formed 5 shadow clones to surround both of them and discreetly switched places with one. Basic jutsu were the simplest but most versatile tools in battle. He and the 4 unrestrained clones leapt at Minato, ready to deal out a thorough beating. Kaze no Yaiba, Blade of Wind. Minato snapped his wrist upward to slice at the space in front of him and expel a compressed gust of cutting wind. Immediately, the chakra whips dissipated and 3 clones dispelled. A 4th clone, instead of dispelling, grunted in pain as the wind sliced deeply into his stomach. The real Naruto. In one smooth motion, Minato unsheathed his own katana from his back. The attacking sword was blocked by the 5th and final clone's kunai, while the real Naruto leapt back from Minato. As soon as the clone dispelled, Naruto called forth another wave of shadow clones. I'll show you what my Bunshin can do. A mass of Naruto clones wearing identical grins covered the clearing. There must have been at least 200, and they all burst into action. Minato observed the chaos around him. There was no way to use Hiraishin in this mess without smacking face first into 1 or 10 clones. He needed to dispel them in masses, now, before they all jumped him with weapons and jutsu. Futon, Shinku Renpa, Vacuum Serial Waves. Sweeping his head from left to right, while exhaling thick, powerful blasts of wind, Minato demolished all clones in his way. Even as he took a bone-shattering elbow to his ribs, he continued the wind attack for another sweep. Satisfied that only a quarter of the clones remained, Minato shunned Shined to the safety of a cleared area of the training ground to prepare his next move. But as soon as he touched down, the ground under his feet exploded. Chapter 4 Psyche. Minato shunned Shined to the safety of a cleared area of the training ground to prepare his next move. But as soon as he touched down, the ground under his feet exploded. Minato was blasted upward with rocks and debris, only avoiding the full explosive impact because he had been able to ride the momentum of the tail end of his shunshin. He landed gracelessly several feet away only for the ground to explode again. And again. And again, each time he landed. What had Naruto done? Minato's mind flashed through the events of the past few minutes. The Bunshin, in the chaos of Naruto's 200 clones, the Hunter Nin had set up explosives throughout the training ground. Wait, no. Only the mass of clones could have set up this many traps in such a short time. He wasn't sure how, though, since cloned explosive tags dispelled when the clone dispelled. Naruto would have had to carry an impossible number of tags and flung them over the entire training ground in moments without alerting him. Also impossible. Luck was finally on Minato's side as he landed safely on the next patch of dirt. He studied the ground around him to look for hints on Naruto's trick. Are those bugs on all the rocks? Minato gingerly lifted one around the size of a coin to examine. Symbols. The black dots weren't bugs. They were seals activated by the touch of chakra. Doton, Dosakuryu mudslide. Minato punched the ground, causing the hard earth around him to rise in a wave flying outward. The entire field lit up in fire and smoke as 100 explosive seals detonated simultaneously, causing the earth to quake violently and a gigantic dust cloud to cast a wide shadow over the clearing. The surrounding trees strained as the force of the explosion burst outwards. As dust settled, Minato glimpsed Naruto's form lying face down on the ground. He stepped cautiously toward the lifeless body but reared back when another group of clones materialized around the ANBU captain, lining up in a circle before sinking into the mud. Minato was about to send a shockwave through the loose earth to dispel the clones underground, when the ground lit up in a circle around him. He suddenly collapsed, as if weighed down by an invisible force. The clones resurfaced beyond the circle, which was now made up of black squiggles. Didn't you know? Naruto taunted as he sat up gingerly from where he had fallen. The right side of his face and body suffered from serious burns, and his leg looking mangled. Minato was about to question his well-being when Naruto exclaimed, "I'm a seal master and a master of deception." He suddenly leapt fluidly into a beautiful flip and stuck his tongue out before dispelling with a puff of cloud. A clone? The injuries, even the blood, looked so real. Siowas. Even as he was flattened under the heavy pressure, Minato's expression transformed into a playful smirk. "Well, that makes this fight even more exciting," he said while compressing chakra on the tip of his index finger. "Because I'm also a seal master." In his crouch position, he rapidly carved symbols onto the ground around him and pushed chakra into his makeshift seal, causing black lines to stretch outward and cancel out Naruto's gravity seal, which the shadow clones had drawn from underground. Minato bit his thumb and drew another seal. "Shit, Naruto cursed as he recognized the new squiggles speeding towards the clones around the circle. They all tried to escape with identical jumps backwards, but before their feet fully lifted off, the lines caught each of them and spread up their bodies. All of the Narutos dispelled except one. The real Naruto who had again hidden perfectly among his clones. The seal Minato drew was a simpler version of the chakra transfer seal, and for the next 3 minutes, every bit of chakra he used would be sourced from Naruto. The Hunter barely had enough time to appreciate Minato's seal expertise before he felt a powerful suction in his chakra coils as the taller blonde formed hand seals to activate a summon. Kuchi-yose no Jutsu. With a gigantic puff, Gamabunta materialized in the clearing. Minato gaped, shocked that he had been able to pull enough chakra from Naruto to summon the chief. "Kid, what do you want?" The towering toad asked grumpily. I was going to summon Gamachu with lower chakra transfer, but somehow Naruto had enough chakra to summon you." Minato stared intently at the surprised Hunter. He felt the pulsating power and fever of Naruto's blue chakra now running through his body, making him quiver from its passion and melt from its warmth. There was an underlying heavy red chakra which seemed to act as reinforcement for the blue. Whenever the wild blue spilled out of the current of the coils, the red would reach out to nudge it back onto its proper path. Both were so warm. It felt like Minato's body was on an intense high, the pleasant heat clouding his mind. So this was the essence of Yuzuhara Naruto. Who's Naruto? Gamabunta swept his eyes over the training ground before catching sight of a figure tense to attack. "You're it," the chief toad asked, unimpressed. Boy, have we met before?" His eyes narrowed. "You feel familiar." Naruto sucked in a sharp breath. "Familiar? What do you mean by familiar?" "Like I should know your chakra." Gamabunta bent down to peer closely at the boy. "Like I should know you." Naruto's jaw dropped. Looking at the toad almost hungrily, he leapt onto the enormous head and whispered something only heard by the two of them. Suddenly, the chief toad released a deafening laugh, almost dislodging the Hunter. "Kid, I'm impressed by your skill and stupidity." His gravely voice boomed mirthfully. The ground shook from the force of his enormous hand slamming down onto the ground, forming deep indentations. "Hey, don't glare at me like that. Bring sake and snacks next time and we'll talk." He shifted his attention at Minato. "Sorry, Minato, I won't fight him, but I'll send over Gamachu. Good luck. You'll need it to beat this brat." Gamabunta puffed away, only to be replaced by a human-sized toad brandishing a sword. The ANBU captain stood frozen, baffled and overwhelmed, unsure of what had just happened. Who exactly was Yuzuhara Naruto? "Oh, Minato. Minato, what's wrong with you? Pay attention. You want me to fight the little kid over there?" Minato nodded dumbly. "All right, get ready, kid. Chief might like you, but I'm not so nice." He charged at Naruto, who was still grinning ear to ear. Minato's seal had expired, and his skin was once again spotless. "Q, am I still under your contract?" "Of course, kid. Shiro has been itching to play. Let him out for a bit." Naruto jumped back from Gamachu and slammed his hand on the ground. "Kuchi-yose no Jutsu." Another puff sounded through the clearing. When the cloud wisped away, they saw a beautiful white fox preening his coat. Naruto, finally, I thought you would never call for me. The lean fox, slightly taller than an average human, nuzzled Naruto's face lovingly. Would you like for me to toy with Warty stomping towards us? Yep, Shiro, that would be really helpful. I'll treat you to sashimi later, the fresh, expedited ones from Seaport Village, with extra orders of white tuna. Naruto replied cheerfully. The fox suddenly shape-shifted into a tall, elegant man with long white hair, dressed in a loose, shimmering white yukata. Anything for you, Naru. He dropped into a languid fighting stance and gave Gamachu a foxy smile. Fox claw style, Shiro announced softly and slashed the incoming toad with sharpened nails. Gamachu retaliated with his sword in powerful strokes. As the toad and fox fought, Naruto turned his attention to Minato, whose mind had finally returned to the present and was speeding through hand seals next to the pond. Monkey, rat, tiger, dragon, horse dragon. Suetun, John no Kuchi, mouth of the serpent. A huge column of water rose from the pond and launched at Naruto, opening its gaping jaw to swallow the hunter Nin. He dodged out of the way, but the torrent followed and struck his side, slamming him into a boulder on the other end of the training ground. His right arm snapped violently, now bent at an unnatural angle and bone piercing the skin. Coughing up blood, he created a clone to support his nearly useless arm and painfully, carefully, forcefully formed seals. Perfect time for this jutsu. Boar, ram, snake, horse, dragon. Naruto grit his teeth in pain. Gathering his concentration, he ground out. Right on, Jibashi, electromagnetic murder. A wave of electricity followed the path of water the serpent had created back to Minato, who was engulfed in the surge of lightning and screamed. Naruto cut off the attack to Shunshin across the clearing, drawing his katana with his left to aim for Minato's shaking body. As he was about to exact the mock slash to the neck, Minato extended a compressed chakra blade formed from the fingertips of his trembling left hand to point straight at Naruto's heart. They both froze, millimeters from piercing each other. Their eyes locked for a split second. Distant sounds of clapping reached their ears, snapping them out of the adrenaline-induced buzz. That was a spectacular fight, but it seems you have reached an impasse. The medic Nin rushed over to the two men to heal their severe injuries as they collapsed side by side on the ground. But what about my ramen? Naruto panted frantically from behind the man, jerking at his crushed arm. A marvelous idea formed in his mind. Hey, Sandame Gigi, I'll make a deal with you. If I beat you in one jutsu, will you treat me? Please? If I could do it in one hit. Saratobi laughed. For your exemplary performance, I had already planned to reward you both. But you have piqued my interest. You seem confident in your ability to defeat me, and you say with merely one jutsu. Naruto grinned and extracted himself from the medic. I have an ace up my sleeve, and I'm sure it won't fail to take you and everyone else down. Is that so, Naruto? Saratobi chuckled, obviously not taking him seriously. Go ahead and try. Naruto's face twisted into a wicked smirk. Oiroke no Jutsu. In place of Naruto appeared a naked, busty woman who leaned her chest forward to blow a sultry kiss at the Hokage. The delicate hand tracing down her side, followed by a sexy moan, was the last straw. Blood gushed from Sarutobi's and the two male examiners' noses, and all three dropped to the ground in a dead faint. He gave Minato a puzzled look. Why wasn't he affected? The last standing examiner, the Kunoichi, began scolding the hunter Nin with a scandalized expression. Naruto scowled at the lecture, then smirked again. Oiroke no jutsu, sexy man. She never stood a chance against the gorgeous, very naked man with smoldering, lustful eyes prowling toward her like a predator toying with prey. She followed the men into unconsciousness, blood also spraying from her nose. Naruto canceled his jutsu and stared disbelievingly at Minato, who looked amused and unruffled. Hey, Yuzahara-san, who's going to heal my injuries now? What the hell? Is my father asexual? When the three examiners and the Hokage regained consciousness, they woke to a peculiar scene of two humans and a foxman. Shiro, still in his human form, was sitting against a boulder with his master wrapped tightly within the safety of his strong arms. Shiro was glaring at Minato, who was chuckling at Naruto, who was pouting at Minato. Obviously, something had happened while they were out cold. Ahem. Sarutobi cleared his throat to interrupt the three-way staring contest. Well, Naruto, that attack was very effective, he commented with a red face. I believe we should move forward to the physical and medical evaluations. In the Yambiyu headquarters medical facility, the medic Nin nudged and prodded while Naruto fidgeted on the stool. He had been ordered to strip down to his underwear, exposing his wiry form for everyone to see. Strangely, he felt most uncomfortable in front of Minato, which was puzzling since he remembered both Kiba and Konohamaru telling him that they used to bathe with their fathers. However, Naruto had flushed and spun his back to them as he was subjected to more prodding. Well, Yuzahara-san, you seem to be in perfect health. Your rate of healing is faster than anything I've ever seen, and somehow your body resists scarring. However, I need to question you on your one and only scar located on your chest. What caused this injury, and how long ago did you acquire it? Naruto's eyes hardened and stared straight ahead. He clenched his jaw against the memories, both good and bad, resurfacing and almost throwing him back into emotional turmoil. This was not the time to lose control. Having an audience was bad enough, but these people were especially dangerous. Yamanaka and Akaza wouldn't even have to enter his mind to see that he was screwed up, and Minato would probably mother him to death if he showed any weaknesses. Q, I need your help. Naruto tried to ward off the anguish of never seeing Sasuke again. I will take over until you compose yourself. Kurama reached a tail between two columns of his cage and touched the doorway out of Naruto's mind. Naruto's grieving consciousness gratefully sank behind the columns as Kyuubi surfaced. They took advantage of the discovery from years before that Kyuubi could guide Naruto's body as long as he had permission, but Naruto could take back control at any time. It was useful in times such as this when Naruto was close to breaking down. It's for 5 years ago. I really don't want to talk about it. The fox spoke through Naruto's lips, imitating his kit's mannerisms and speech perfectly, but I promise I'm not suffering any physical complications. Minato frowned at the answer. He stamped down the urge to whirl Naruto around and take a close look at what they were talking about. A scar over the chest of a body which heals too quickly to scar, an injury which almost killed. The frown deepened as he tried not to imagine Naruto's dying form with a gaping chest wound. The thought made him almost possessively livid, irrationally, so since they were still mere acquaintances. But like he had stated before, he had the right to worry, especially now that he was sure he wanted this enigmatic man to be a part of his life. It's really fine, Kurama insisted. Can we move on now? I want my clothes back. He shifted uncomfortably at the stares from his audience, which he could practically feel burning into his back. Please? He asked in annoyance. With the clothes back on, the group headed to the written exam. Thanks, Q. I think I'm all right now. Be safe, Kit. The QB gently relinquished his control. Naruto was handed a large packet of paper, filled with questions on theory, strategy, and all ninja arts. Actually, Q, I'm feeling really sick again. Could you take over? The demon fox chuckled. No, I refuse to help you with this. I dislike paper tests as much as you do. Party pooper, Naruto grumbled. You have 4 hours to complete this exam, the proctor explained. Your time starts now. The test was grueling, with question after question on everything in a shinobi's life. An hour into the exam, Naruto looked up to see Minato playing poker with Yamanaka and the medic. The Hokage was nowhere to be found. Minato looked up cheerfully and gave a little wave to which Naruto responded with a withering glare. When the examiner announced 30 minutes remaining, Naruto almost wept with joy. It was almost over. 30 minutes until he could bash Minato's head and katon his body for eating ramen takeout in the room an hour ago. The sadistic bastard. The last minutes crawled by. 20 minutes. 10 minutes. 3 minutes. 15 seconds. Please put down your pencil. This marks the end of your written examination, the kunoichi announced. Congrats, kid. You made it. Yes, I survived. Katon, Gakkaku no Jutsu, great fireball technique. A massive orb of flame shot towards Minato, who only barely dodged the angry attack. It smashed into the wall behind him and blew a huge hole through the wood. Everyone in ANBU headquarters felt the third quake of the day. Must be a shinobi assessment, they all thought simultaneously. Hey, that wasn't very nice, Minato said, still grinning. Naruto glowered and formed seals for another katon jutsu. Is that any way to thank the kind person who brought you 3 bowls of Ichiraka's ramen? The smaller blonde stopped. Ramen? Yup, ramen. But if you don't want it, I'm sure I can find someone here who'd be happy to eat. No, Namikaze-sama. Please let me have the ramen. You said you'd do anything for your ramen, right? Naruto eyed Minato warily. I did. Great. If I give you these, you'll promise fulfill one of my requests, no matter what. Minato flaunted the ramen in front of Naruto. The Hunter-nin's eyes followed the takeout box, distractedly weighing the pros and cons okay deal. The ANBU captain almost let out a triumphant yes as he handed over the box. I'll let you know what I want later. Naruto nodded absently, his mind numb from the Tortu exam, and only managed to slurp his noodles at half his usual speed. It was heaven, and it tasted so heavenly after braving 4 hours of hell. As Naruto patted his stomach happily, the Yamanaka announced the mental evaluation. The demon vessel had prepared thoroughly for this examination. The night before, he and Kyubi had reinforced his mind, disassembling and patching together memories so nothing would expose his real identity and past. He couldn't change much of his psyche, but by curbing the impact of his excruciating memories, the Mind Walker would find no evidence to back suspicions on the true extent of damage. He needed to look stable if he wanted to remain on the active roster. Yuzahara Naruto. My name is Yamanaka Inakazu, and my role is to examine whether your mind is fit for mission duty. I will enter your mind for the evaluation. Your mind does not lie. Naruto knew this fact very well, and it was what made the test so risky. In response to any questions asked, his mindscape would automatically transform to express his true feelings. He and Kurama had tried to control the reactions through determination and will, but they were barely successful. If anything disrupted his concentration, he would only have one feeble protection left: the false memories they had put together from half-truths, which couldn't always be glued together seamlessly. Then there was the large problem of a giant red fox. Fortunately, he had experience with mind walkers from his time, Yamanaka Inoichi and Ino, so he knew what to expect. Without warning, Inakazu entered Naruto's mind. He appeared in a detailed, derelict hall, evidence of more personality than most minds but also neglect, leading to a charming door adorned with gold and blue, perhaps a representation of his hair and eyes. He tried to turn the handle only to find it locked, something to hide. Yamanaka Jiji, it's not nice to enter without knocking, you know. A childlike voice beside him piped up. Inakazu jumped and turned to the speaker, a little put out by being called an old man. He looked upon a tiny Naruto, around 6 or 7 years old, wearing a wrinkled orange jumpsuit. The Mind Walker didn't reply, but followed the advice and knocked, a warning for the inhabitant. Strange, he'd never had to do that before. The door reluctantly tugged free from the frame with a creak, a sign of malnutrition and wariness, inviting him into an unlit space. Have fun, Yamanaka Jiji. Can't follow you in there, but heard it's real nice. I wish my apartment was like that. The boy pouted longingly as he swept his eyes around the hall. Inakazu wondered what he meant and filed the comment for later consideration. He stepped through the doorway into the dark unknown, but light suddenly flooded the space. He saw a blue sky and land covered in grass, a clear river and magnificent white columns. This mine was beautiful, dynamic. His eyes roamed around, absorbing the breathtaking view. Was this even possible for a mind? Welcome to my mindscape, Yamanaka Jiji. Like what you see, a deeper voice spoke beside him. Inakazu jumped again. Calm down, old man. You'll have a heart attack if you keep shocking yourself. You're the cause, Naruto. The Mind Walker grumbled inwardly. This Naruto appeared to be his present age, grinning mischievously up at him, playfulness. Go on, you aren't scared, are you, old man? He taunted, perhaps a prankster. Inakazu harumphed and walked through the mindscape, in awe at the structure of this mind. No other mind had ever been this elaborate or beautiful. He peered into the clear stream, purity of the heart, smiling at its freshness, innocence, until he saw the fish. The fish were black, composed of darkness and suffering, pain mingling with innocence. Then he took a closer look at his surroundings. He didn't notice before. Naruto had previously mentioned he was a master of deception, but he could now see little flaws scattered throughout. Some leaves on trees were burnt to a crisp. Some patches of grass were not grass, but weeds. Among all the species of vibrant flowers, there were black blossoms speckled in between, hidden from direct view. Furthermore, the marigold flower, representing pain and grief, and the cypress, representing death, mourning, despair, and sorrow, were completely black. Pitch black beyond extreme. Next, he examined the memories flowing down the waterfall. He saw happy memories. Ramen at Ichiraku was the most frequent, but there were others. Cloud watching, training, traveling, sealing arts, the Hokage Tower, Konoha, and sunset. He saw the neutral memories. Sitting in a cramped apartment, frustration at failing to learn a new jutsu, D-rank missions, waiting for someone. Then he saw the bad memories. They were horrifying memories. Beatings as a child, angry accusations of demon and monster being shunned and ignored, a hand shoving a spherical attack into his chest. So that's what caused the scar. Bloody figures of dead comrades, torture and rape in a dank cave, the overwhelming collision of loss and despair. There is so much more bad than good, pain cuts deeper. Inakazu realized only the bad memories showed other people, though unrecognizable, meaning good memories were foundations upon which happiness was built, while the bad were individual, stabbing, piercing events which created incisions that rarely healed. Represented by the beautiful mindscape with objects of darkness spotting the space, but never bleeding out to mix with the good. But he looked around the mindscape again. It was still miraculously beautiful, peaceful. Yuzahara-san, what do you fear most? Inakazu asked the boy, watching glumly. The sky bled red, and the smell of blood permeated the air. Losing my precious people. Naruto answered, eyes shadowed by blonde hair. Images of corpses flickered on the landscape, which had become bare, empty. Being alone. What do you consider most important? The sky turned gray and cloudy. Rain began to pelt down at them in the empty space. My precious people. Naruto answered with a face twisted in anguish and pain, perhaps betrayal or loss. What happened in your last mission? Inakazu asked urgently. The rain stopped and a crisp, fresh breeze circled the two. It started well. But then the clouds became thicker and the temperature dropped. Rain, thunder, and lightning ripped the sky before the winds formed a hurricane. Trees toppled. The waterfall crashed violently, and the ground flooded in torrents, devastating failure. Slowly, the weather calmed back to drizzling rain from turbulent black clouds, but the damage remained mourning. I was doing so well, but I messed up. I messed up really badly, and I lost everything. Everything but one. Now I have to rebuild my life and protect the new, but I don't know if I can do it right. Naruto sobbed. What is the one remaining? The flood receded behind the large columns, and Nakazu only now noticed, and the damage began to knit back together through the warm red haze which wrapped around them. My eternal companion. Naruto's shoulders lost their tension, and a tiny smile graced his exhausted face. Who is this eternal companion? My dear friend, brother, father, partner, accomplice, protector, and mentor. I thought you said one. Inakazu furrowed his brow in confusion. He is only one, Naruto insisted. Inakazu decided to let it go. How do you deal with stress? The red haze curled tighter around Naruto like a warm blanket. The damage to the surroundings had been fully restored, and the red mist dissipated as the mindscape returned to its peaceful state. So, with help from his eternal companion. What makes you happy? Naruto gave a dazzling smile, but offered no words. Inakazu knew he would receive no further answers and nodded. He walked towards the tall white columns. You can't go in here. A barrier reaching up to the sky, made of hundreds of Narutos, blocked his way in view. Why not? This is my room. Don't you see the no adults allowed sign? He said defiantly as a rebellious teen would to his parent. He only now noticed the large red sign with words written in a messy scrawl. Geez, adults these days. Always snooping around my stuff. A fuzzy image of Minato, taking his hunter uniform from the laundry room, appeared to the side. It wasn't a memory, but a conjured idea of what Minato must have done. Your room, Inakazu asked with an amused smile. That's right, my room. The Narutos all echoed as one possessive voice. Yuzuhara-san, I need to examine what lies behind it. But you already saw me. They all frowned. You don't need to see anything else. It's personal. It's important that I evaluate all of you. I bet you just want to see my embarrassing moments and show them to Namikaze. Their frowns turned into glares. Why should I hand you blackmail material? They'll all laugh at me forever. No one will do TH. Yes, they would. Why would you need to see me get turned down by a girl, or tripping into mud, or masturbating? One Naruto said indignantly. Inakazu shifted uncomfortably. Well, another Naruto replied. So it's like that? You want to see me suffer through visual, step-by-step demonstrations of the birds and the bees? For times. You really want to know? Naruto didn't give the embarrassed man any chance to interject. I'll tell you what happened, but you can't tell Namikaze or the old man. Promise? Good. I fainted the first 2 times. You wouldn't believe the detail that pervert went into. Menstrual cycles and birthing. I couldn't look at girls for weeks without imagining faint images of something red. I thought I would have to turn gay to get it up. From the strained look on the Yamanaka's queasy face, Naruto knew it would take just one more push. If you get to see mine, you have to show me yours. A third Naruto said gravely as a fuzzy image of 2 naked people began to fizzle in. The Mind Walker sputtered. No, no, that's quite all right. I believe we are finished here. Thank you for your cooperation. He hurried back out of the door and phased out of Naruto's mind. The wall of Naruto's burst out laughing. Well done, kid. You successfully came out appearing sane and probably scarring the man. He will never be able to give his teenage son the talk now. Kyubi materialized behind him. I can't believe it worked. Isn't he supposed to be part of the torture and interrogation team? Only one Naruto remained. I based that whole act off of Kiba's stories about his mom. Do all kids really put up stupid signs like that? I cannot give you an answer. I know less about human children than you. I also didn't know I could change your shape by will. He eyed the fox's large shape with mischief. You should have told me before. You know now, but do refrain from using it without my permission. It was ghastly being a mouse. QB's mouth drew back in a snarl. Naruto snorted a laugh. I get it. Remember? I've hinged into one before. Kurama gently brushed Naruto with a tail. It is time to wake. Your humans are waiting. He opened his eyes to three pairs of concerned eyes. Ooh, e. Finally awake? Minato grinned. Are you all right? Looks like you did a number on Yamanaka-san. Well, now that you have regained consciousness, we shall discuss the findings the Hokage announced. Wait, what? Naruto turned confused eyes to Sarutobi. What do you mean by discuss that? It is the immediate analysis of your mind for the most thorough evaluation of your psyche. But we never had to do that before, Naruto exclaimed. It is a required part of this assessment, since it is your first. Sarutobi stated with finality. This is not up for debate. Naruto's head dropped to his chest. After several deep breaths, he looked back at them with hardened eyes. I accept, but only between Yamanaka-san and Sandame Gigi. I am sorry, Naruto, but you require at least 3 witnesses. Minato-kun will join us. He blanched. Why does it have to be him? We wish to keep knowledge of you between as few people as possible, especially results of your mental examination. The distraught blonde snarled. Fine. Let's get started then. The 3 of them began with a nakazu, describing the setting. The other 2 were shocked at his report and the comparison between Naruto's mindscape and all other minds. They were again shocked at Naruto's terrible experiences. The Hunter Nin looked away, unable to stomach their reactions. Sarutobi worried about the darkness integrated into his neutral mind, but was relieved to find that overall, he was stable. When they reached the results of the questioning, Sarutobi's worries returned even stronger than before, but he understood the background and couldn't blame Naruto for feeling as such. Insanity was different from mourning, and Naruto was just mourning. He would be fine. Minato sat against a boulder in ANBU Training Ground 4, staring blankly at the damage he and Naruto done to the field. He had barely spoken since Naruto's mental evaluation. He had known the Hunter Nin was traumatized. It was obvious from the first night. But he didn't expect it to be this bad. To suffer in an effort to save those he cared for, then to lose them all anyway. Life was cruel. The entire day had been one shock after another. So much for getting to know the guy. Now he had even more questions. Yuzuhara Naruto was a never-ending mystery. He popped into his life merely 1 week ago, disrupting his sleep and turning him into a stalker. He had never before lost this much sleep in between missions. There was too many thoughts cycling around in his head, and today just added more. Minato wondered where Naruto went. He had disappeared again, looking exhausted and empty. There was a resigned air about him as the kid listened to the Mind Walker expose his secrets, like he had given up caring after having them dredged up one too many times. Minato studied the evidence of their battle. That was where he first got blown up. Over there was where he trapped Naruto and felt the ferocity of his chakra. And that huge indentation was where Gamma Bunta shook with laughter. What was up with that? He was as clueless now as before. The EMBU captain sighed. Yuzuhara Naruto. Naruto. He sighed again. Thinking was doing him no good. He wanted to help. He'd wanted to help since the first moment he felt the grieving chakra. But here he was, thinking and doing nothing. What had Naruto said? I believe hard work trumps innate genius. Naruto was right. He needed to act if he wanted to get anything done. Minato stood up tall, filled with renewed determination. He gathered what he knew about the elusive Hunter Nin and headed off to the Forest of Death. Minato arrived at a wide clearing. From the scorch marks and freshly bulldozed trees, it looked like a recent renovation. Naruto, his target, was lying in the very center, alone as Yamanaka-san had described him to be. He looked so broken, on his back, arms placed haphazardly, and staring expressionlessly up at nothing. Was this really the man who had matched him blow for blow? That Naruto seemed to have sunk somewhere into his mind while leaving this soul-weary boy in his place. Namikaze. Naruto made no attempt at politeness. What do you want? I wanted to see if you're all right. Minato approached carefully. He didn't want the blonde to bolt like he had done before. If Naruto escaped now, there would be no way to find him again. His chakra control was that good. I'm Phoenix. A flat answer from a flat voice. Go away. Minato ignored the request to sit next to him. After several minutes of silence, he imitated Naruto to lie on his back, facing up at what Naruto was looking at. What do you see? Minato whispered. I don't know. An even quieter response. Am I supposed to see something? I guess I don't know either. Silence blanketed them again. It was silence in nature, surrounded by rustling leaves, chirping insects, the hoot of an owl, but it was silence in their bones. After what seemed like hours, Minato turned his head towards the other. He didn't comment on what he saw. Tears more silent than their surroundings trickled from the corner of Naruto's eye and into his hair. Minato didn't move his eyes away from the heartbreaking but ethereal vision before him. He couldn't describe why, but Naruto looked like someone from beyond this world. Even without learning of his past, something about him hinted that Naruto had seen it all and done it all. Maybe it was the wisdom which occasionally flashed through those fierce eyes. Or perhaps it was the barely visible wrinkles on his forehead from stress. Maybe it was the way his eyes flickered around him wherever he was, as if expecting to find something suspicious. Minato moved his hand to brush against Naruto's, offering silent support and acceptance. I should be admitted to a mental asylum, Naruto whispered gloomily. I think there was one near my old apartment. Minato didn't answer, sensing there were more words to come. I used to think I was supposed to be alone. Why else would people be angry when they saw me? Naruto was silent for another few minutes. But then someone told me I didn't have to. I think I was 9. Minato's heart clenched. And then I met more people that said the same thing. So I started believing them. Naruto turned his head to stare hauntingly into Minato's eyes. But I hurt them just by being alive. More tears escaped those blue eyes filled with self-loathing and regret. Then the hell ended, and those of us who survived found happiness in each other. The corner of Naruto's lips twitched upwards almost unnoticeably, and the pain in those eyes was replaced by a wistful glaze. He was remembering. Minato replied with a kind smile of his own. Did you know? It takes around a month to forge a quality sword. Minato shifted his head to signal a no, unconcerned by the abrupt change in topic. My second teacher taught me how to make one. His eyes focused again, this time with piercing clarity into Minato's. He walked me through each step. Naruto grimaced, but the eyes glistened with more tears and even more regret. I still have the katana, but I lost my matching wakizashi. He took a deep, shuddering breath. It was so precious. Minato waited patiently and unmoving through the pause. He helped me carve the sheath. He let out a long, shuddering breath. But now will be forever empty, and my katana forever alone. A sob tore through the clearing. Minato knew Naruto was talking about more than just the pair of swords. He grasped the shaking hand next to his own. I want it back, but it's long gone. A strangled choke squeezed between two sobs. Minato turned on his side and spoke for the first time since the heartbroken boy began his story. Can you teach me to forge my own sword? Naruto's breath hitched, and another wave of tears filled his eyes. He didn't answer, but finally, after a long, long silence, Naruto averted his eyes back towards the star-filled sky and gave Minato's warm hand a tiny squeeze. Naruto didn't see the blinding smile, but he felt Minato's gratitude by an answering squeeze. This time the warmth didn't loosen its hold. Another sob slipped out of Naruto's lips, followed by another, and another until he was unable to hold back the shudders racking his body. Minato tugged gently on the arm. Naruto responded immediately by shifting towards the other man and curling up against the warm body, seeking another's heat to ease his loneliness. Carefully, Minato wrapped his arms around the sobbing, shuddering body and held him close, tightening his arms whenever an especially violent sob escaped. Minato didn't notice before, during their battle, but now with Naruto tucked under his chin, he could clearly feel the strong but narrower frame compared to his own. However, Naruto would never be described as soft or delicate. Instead, Naruto's wiry body held incredible strength, enough to counter the power from his own body, which was half a head taller. No, definitely not delicate, neither in body nor mind. Eventually, the sobs died down and the trembling faded. Naruto's gasping calmed into slow, steady breaths. The Hunter Nin's hands remained clenching Minato's steel gray Yinbyu vest, grip tightening each time Minato shifted from discomfort. Naruto nuzzled into the crook of the man's neck and mumbled softly, "Thanks." Joyful wonder swelled from within as Minato smiled serenely into the night. Chapter 5: Red and Black. Naruto dreamt of swords and precious faces. Disjointed images faded in and out. Kakashi-sensei teaching him to polish a sword with a silver wig. Tsunade Baba brandishing Zabu's giant Kubikiri Bucho instead of her jug of sake. Light filtered into the Dream Hokage's office from the oddly large window, blinding him, forcing him to shut his eyes. Behind closed lids, he began to feel something scratchy under his arms and something soft under his head. Wherever he was, it was quiet with one non-hostile in his immediate surroundings. He slowly blinked his eyes open, squinting in the light. confused as to why he was on a bed. He hadn't slept indoors in over a week, and though it felt wonderful, it was a reason for caution. Moreover, this couldn't possibly be his room, since he's always kept his window curtains closed. Sitting up, he looked around the room. Naruto recognized it as ANBU quarters, similar to his own, except for the personal effects scattered around the space. He followed the chakra signature of the non-hostile and recognized it as Minato's from somewhere on the floor. Oh crap, Minato! He remembered everything from the night before and flushed in embarrassment. He cried like a baby in front of a stranger who was his kind of father. You're supposed to show strength in front of fathers, right? At least that was what he heard according to the Hyuga clan. Lee was strong, too, in front of his kind of father guy. But Kurama, his kind of father, never required him to be strong in front of him. Puzzling. Naruto studied the other man's back curiously as he groaned from the floor. Minato slowly stretched his arms above his head and curled his toes. As he relaxed, he turned over to face Naruto and stopped. They were both frozen in awkward silence with Naruto sitting up halfway and Minato's arms still halfway above his head. Naruto started to say, his flush from earlier deepening. Thanks for the bed. I'm guessing you brought me back. Minato unfroze and mumbled groggily, You're welcome. Then he furrowed his brow as if thinking hard to remember something troubling. Naruto, you don't weigh enough. Are you eating properly? What? A bemused Naruto wondered if he'd heard correctly, his earlier embarrassment replaced by exasperation. Oh, sorry, Yuzahara-san. I didn't mean to be rude. Minato sat up, smiling apologetically. I haven't had my morning shot of milk yet. Milk? Now he wondered whether the guy was missing a few screws in the head. Isn't it usually a stimulant like coffee or tea? Nah, coffee is for lunch. Milk is a healthy jump start to a day. Minato stood up and stretched again. That aside, good morning. Help yourself to whatever you need. Then I'm dragging you to breakfast. I should probably go to my room. I haven't been there since I started training. Oh, of course. Here's your clean uniform. I'll get you for breakfast in half an hour. Does that work for you? He wondered if the older blonde had forgotten his humiliating breakdown last night. He had been sure Minato would reprimand him about it. Thanks, that sounds great. Now it was Naruto's turn to furrow his brow. Can you tell me where your room is in relation to the main stairs? What for? Minato tilted his head in sleepy confusion. Naruto scratched the back of his head, feeling like a toddler lost on his way home. I need to find my room. Minato snorted with laughter. Yuzahara, we're neighbors. Neighbors? Yeah, your door is actually about 2 feet from mine. Neighbors? Naruto stared at the ANBU captain incredulously and pondered his luck. In this case, bad luck. What a coincidence. Namikaze-san, I'll just get going then. Thank you for last night. He escaped the room, barely acknowledging Minato's comment about calling him by his first name and the reminder about breakfast. Oh God, his door was really just 2 feet away. Rooms 613 and 614. This just made his life more difficult in more ways than one, as both Yuzahara Naruto and Akashiori. These two identities were supposed to stay separate, but how was he going to maintain that with Minato trying to become his best friend and mother hen from right next door? 30 minutes later, Naruto answered the knock on his door apprehensively. Minato smiled lazily down at him, hair still damp from a shower. Naruto was finally in a clean set of uniforms sans his dark vest and anything else identifying him as a hunter nin. He barely remembered to pull on a sleeved shirt to cover his hunter nin and flame tattoos, since even the most expert henge was never foolproof, especially in a room of elite ninja. He knew very well the long-standing animosity between the two black ops organizations, perpetuated by the ANBU's contempt for Hunter Nin's ruthless methods. As this was the ANBU headquarters, he was technically at the very center of enemy territory. Naruto didn't want to deal with it this morning, or ever, if he had any say. The two made their way through the maze-like hallways to the cafeteria. "Hey, Minato!" Someone shouted. "How have you been?" Many heads, some masked and some not, turned towards the ANBU captain and called out to him cheerfully. It was obvious how well-liked he was by all. Minato waved back enthusiastically before grabbing Naruto's tense shoulders and steering him to a particularly rowdy table. "Good morning, my dear animal friends." Minato gave a lopsided grin. The group exchanged morning greetings, and someone, almost habitually, pressed a glass of milk into Minato's hand to chug. Finally fully awake, Minato dragged forward the poor Hunter Nin, who was making a valiant attempt to sneak away from the unrelenting ANBU captain. "Everyone, this is Yuzahara Naruto. He's new here and staying in the room next to mine," Minato introduced, pushing the reluctant boy further forward. "Be nice to him." Naruto looked like a deer caught in headlights as people crowded around to get a closer look. He had rarely been surrounded by such large crowds due to his status as a Jinchuriki. His wariness towards those not part of his group of precious people and his ugly past only increased his discomfort. Naruto was now in uncharted territory within enemy territory. Ugh, he was screwed. "Huh, this kid looks like he's about to piss himself." One large man sneered down at the cagey blonde. "Rookie, you sure you're cut out for this?" "Hey, Boar, I told you to be nice," Minato admonished, then smirked. "Yuzahara's been in Black Ops for a year already." The group was immediately consumed by furious whispering, everyone throwing disbelieving looks at the boy squirming under their combined calculating glances. "No way. He looks like a 15-year-old weakling." "It's true. He's brilliant," Minato confirmed firmly. "I did his combat assessment yesterday, and we tied." The group fell silent. "Were you the one that caused the quakes?" Someone in the back asked. Um, Naruto answered uncomfortably, his eyes once again sweeping side to side for an escape route. This was too much attention, too intense, too soon. Minato slung his arm over the shorter blonde's shoulders, offering reassurance and encouragement, but frowned slightly in concern when Naruto flinched. He blew up the entire training ground for her. Everyone should take a look. Those explosives were wicked. A masked kunoichi to the right let out an excited shout. "I saw it. It was completely destroyed. Demolished. Fried. Flooded. I don't know how exactly to describe it. That was really you." Naruto's rubbed the back of his head and offered a sheepish smile. "It wasn't me alone, but I might have gone a bit overboard. But it was against Namikaze-san, so it's justified." The group broke into laughter, a ninja even patting his back in congratulations. I've had to fight him for 3 assessments, and I've never gotten close. Me neither. He's merciless. I barely matched him once, but I was stuck in a hospital for a week afterwards. You seriously blew him up? I'd pay to see the great Namikaze's Minato getting fried. Minato's grin grew at the group's acceptance of Naruto. And what's more, he managed to trip me in the first 30 seconds of the fight. The level of noise grew as more people joined the huddle. Minato could feel Naruto's shoulders relax and loosen, no longer looking around as if everyone was an enemy. He had made the right decision to force interaction, knowing that the Naruto right now would never seek anyone out for companionship. Then, someone asked one of the questions considered taboo. So where have you been all this time? You've been in ops for a year, right? Caught off guard, Naruto breath caught, and his face twisted in anguish for barely a moment before smoothing over into a fake smile. His insides churned and bile threatened to rise. With just one question, these people once again became threats. In a friendly environment, he had almost forgotten that this was not his world and that he had lost all of his own Black Ops friends when he got stranded in the past. The anonymity from the masks around him may help him forget, but it was just him in denial. The ambient around Naruto, all trained to spot details, fell silent as they saw the flash of pain and change in countenance. All of them knew what it signaled. They'd seen it in their comrades, and many had experienced it themselves. The agony of loss of those precious to you. I was on a long-term mission, Naruto answered as casually as possible, knowing that in this emotional wreck, the act wouldn't convince anyone. Minato tightened the arm still slung over the stiff shoulders to remind Naruto he wasn't alone and would always find a friend in him. Hey, we need to grab some food. We'll see you all later. Minato pulled his companion out of the crowd to an empty table in the corner. Yuzahara, are you all right? Minato peered closely at the shadowed face. Ie me fine. Naruto leaned away. Minato sighed. We've had this conversation before, in a laundry room if I remember correctly. You don't have to hide yourself, especially from me. Naruto clenched his jaw, something he had been doing far too often lately. I'm fine, he growled. He'd had enough. Enough of Minato. Enough of the ANBU. Enough of this overwhelming trauma accumulated over his entire nightmare of a life. He didn't need to get involved with people again, no matter how much he craved acknowledgement and love. In the end, he was doomed to lose everything. It wouldn't hurt as much if he didn't have much to lose. Doomed, fated, destined. He was starting to sound like Niji from all those years ago. No, he was going to act from the shadows, away from needless distractions. Yuzuhar. Namikaze-san, I just remembered that Hokage-sama requested to speak with me today. Naruto lied. I shouldn't keep him waiting. He straightened his spine in his chair and nodded to the ANBU captain, so tense and so controlled. Please enjoy your day. Without even standing, he vanished silently with barely a wisp of cloud, leaving a dejected Minato staring at the empty space. Instead of visiting Sandaime Jiji, Naruto returned to his empty room to plan his next step as the unseen protector of Konoha. He was unaccustomed to subtle manipulation, but he couldn't go around beating people up as he had done throughout his shinobi career. If he was to work from the shadows, he couldn't have a face. Uzumaki Naruto felt it would be best to create four personas. One was Yuzahara Naruto, the unmasked hunter Nin forced upon him by the Sandaime. Second was Yuzahara Naruto, special jounin of infiltration and reconnaissance, his public identity for mobility around the village. Third was the Sandaime Hokage's personal advisor with no outward presence. Fourth was Akashiori, the ruthless masked hunter Nin to carry out high-profile missions for the personal advisor. The 200 Nin characters would be easiest to play. Yuzahara and Akashiori were two sides of one coin, day and night. Perhaps he could even eliminate the unmasked hunter Nin and use the Yuzahara name solely for the special jounin persona. That would reduce the number of people he needed to interact with, making it easier to hide his identities and retain his sanity. The most difficult and delicate position would be the personal advisor. He would have to dance around the council, the 5 hidden villages, Tobi, the Sannin, Minato, Kushina, and anyone else who would play a major role in Konoha's success and destruction. There are so many factors to consider and so much risk to manage. To have this responsibility crushing his shoulders was frightening. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This was a common principle in science. Except when meddling with time and life, you didn't know what every action entailed, and the reactions were never equal nor opposite. He was scared, but he had to begin now. Change had begun the second he landed in this time, and he and the Sandaime needed to seize the untamed strings before they moved beyond their grasp. There were an infinite number of strings to catch and pull. Naruto knew what made being a leader difficult. Leaders had to set priorities, and many times the greater good clashed with what you yourself wanted. His role as an advisor to the leader automatically made him a leader as well, basically meaning he had to decide who would live and who would die. He was terrified. Stop thinking and do something, Naruto scolded himself. Dropping into the chair at his desk, he pulled out blank sheets of paper and began writing in the elegant handwriting that Tsunade Baba and Irika Sensei had pounded into him. What Hokage writes to the daimyo in chicken scratch was what she had yelled before dumping on him a huge pile of her paperwork and proceeded to take a nap. Naruto listed all that he knew of the next several years, limiting himself to 6 years, ending at the day Tobi summoned Kyuubi and Uzumaki Naruto was born. That had marked the end of an era which had set in motion the disastrous events of the following 18 years. If he could eliminate the major catalysts and those responsible, much of the destruction Konoha had suffered could be avoided. He worked straight through lunch and finished right after dinner time. It was only a rough draft, but that was enough for now. The stack of sheets, now bound by 5 layers of security seals, contained the beginnings of a conspiracy, and Uzumaki Naruto was the one orchestrating it. Taking the next step, Naruto pushed chakra into his flame seal to contact the Sandaime and request a secret meeting as personal advisor to the Hokage. Seconds later, the seal warmed, signaling approval. It was time. From this moment on, he was Hokage's PA first, and everything else was secondary. Hokage-sama, thank you for meeting with me on such short notice. Akashiori materialized in front of the Sandaime's desk. I felt it prudent to commence our preparations for coming times as soon as possible. Sarutobi placed his elbows on the desk and set his chin on his clasped hands. With sharp eyes, he took in the deadly ninja positioned in front of him, wearing the hunter Nin uniform and mask. Akashiori, I have prepared something for use as my personal advisor. I am in agreement that you should keep your identities separate, especially this one. He reached into a hidden compartment to pull out 3 objects. The first was a folded uniform, design not yet discernible, but he could see it was made from a light fabric of complete black. The second object was an equally black cloak to protect him from prying eyes. The third and final object, presented by a pair of steady hands, but accepted by a pair of hands trembling almost unnoticeably, was a mask of black matte porcelain. After a moment of silence, Sarutobi spoke again. You will be addressed as the Haikage, the shadow of ashes of Kanahagakure, fitting for one who will operate unknown and unseen behind the Hokage, the fire shadow. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Akashiori dropped to a low bow before straightening and presenting the Sandame with an object of his own. This collection of notes contains the historical events of the next 6 years. It is currently bound and sealed, only accessible by myself for the sole reason that we have not yet determined our strategy for what is frankly referred to as meddling with time. Sarutobi stared down at the blank cover, rolling ideas back and forth within his mind. When he looked up several minutes later, the man in front of him was no longer Akashiori, but the Haikage in full uniform with a mask positioned over his face and the cloak hanging over an arm. His entire body was encased in black, similar to the Black Ops uniforms, but with full sleeves and closed-toed boots. And Sarutobi knew that underneath the porcelain mask was another cloth mask covering the 3 scars on each cheek. The Sandame smiled proudly before holding out the last piece of cloth with which the Haikage covered his bright hair, leaving blue eyes as the only distinguishable features. Haikage-kun, now we are ready to begin. Naruto returned to his room late that night, exhausted and hungry from a full day of nonstop work. He had forgotten to eat after the breakfast debacle, instead utilizing all of his angry energy on protecting Konoha. The meeting with the Hokage had been grim as he gave the Sandame a rundown of the future. He thought back on the first issue he had raised. I am certain you have been informed of the skirmishes along the borders, yes? Sarutobi nodded. They have been increasing in frequency over the past several months. I have begun to send teams to investigate, such as Team 21, which discovered you. But the incidents have been minor. Haikage pursed his lips. There is never a clear-cut beginning to any war, Hokage-sama. The Sandame drew a sharp breath. War, you say? At Naruto's clipped nod, he dropped his face in his hands, lost in recollection, and did not move for a long time. The younger man waited patiently as a fellow war veteran, understanding the horrors he must be recalling. I have fought through 2 shinobi world wars, Haikage-kun. He directed a haunted gaze across the room to nothing in particular. In the first, I was a participant. In the second, I led Konoha to battle as the Sandame Hokage. A general must be sure and ruthless to lead his army to victory. But with every fallen comrade, I only felt pain mounting in my heart. Now you hint at a third, and once more must I send them to their deaths. His world-weary eyes traced the Hikeage's half-masked face. I feel as though I have aged a decade in mere minutes. The man in black said nothing, knowing it would not be the last time the elder would feel as such. How much time do we have? 2.5 years at most before it is officially recognized as a war. Sarutobi straightened his spine, the will of fire reigniting with fearsome intensity. Then we must move swiftly. There is much to be done. The two Kages had unsealed Hikeage's notes. Even after reading the horrifying truths, it was unnecessary to remind each other that not everything could be changed and not everyone could be saved. All you can do is protect those who are precious to you, like you've always done. This time it is Konoha as one entity. Some events, like the Third War, were unavoidable. Not only was it almost impossible to separate Konoha from the decline of all 5 great countries, but the treaties and alliances formed as a result of the war were crucial to Konoha's future peace. They could only reduce casualties and possibly shorten the duration of the war. As the meeting concluded, Naruto had raised a request to eliminate the Hunter Nin Yuzahara Naruto persona. He had laid out the benefits and drawbacks, arguing that having too many identities would risk exposure of the entire operation, only to be told that his placement within the ANBU headquarters had a purpose. You cannot deny that you are emotionally stunted, Naruto, Sarutobi replied. As Yuzahara Naruto, within ANBU headquarters, you will have the chance to interact with people of similar experiences and caliber. The Hunter Nin Corps lacks definitive headquarters since they have fewer agents and prefer secrecy even among their ranks. The Hunter Nin Lounge and office in the Hokage Tower will not be enough for you. However, I will reconsider after the results of your next shinobi assessment. Naruto could not disagree with the logic. He groaned in dismay. He was starving, but there was nothing open in the village at this time of the night except for bars. He would have to decide between the cafeteria and the forest of death's rabbits, but neither seemed appealing. With a heavy sigh, he changed into something comfortable and ventured out of his room. He didn't encounter anyone in the halls, but as he neared the cafeteria, he could hear voices and sounds of movement from beyond the entrance. Naruto strolled into the room as inconspicuously as possible, but he had gained too much fame that morning to be ignored by others. Yuzahara, right? A tall man with some sort of canine mask approached. The rumors say you tied with Namikaze-san in a fight. Naruto nodded warily. Don't let it get to your head, kid. He had the distinct impression that the man was sneering down at him. Namikaze-san may like you, but you haven't convinced everyone. You better keep out of our way if you know what's good for you, rookie. The man sauntered off, leaving Naruto with the thought that humans just weren't worth it. Kid, do not lump him in with all humans. But he can be lumped in with most humans along with the villagers who hate me. There are good humans as well. Like who, aside from Sandame Gigi and Ichiraku owners? You forget that although you have lost your precious people from our proper time, they still exist in this present and will grow into good humans. That doesn't mean humans are worth interacting with. What about your future father? There is also the Mind Walker, as well as the man from this morning who invited you for a drink. I don't want to deal with my father. Kurama did not reply. Hey, Yuzahara-san. Naruto flinched at the touch on his shoulder. Well, Speak of the devil. Naruto reluctantly turned to face Namikaze's Minato standing behind him. Yes, Namikaze-san. He did his best to keep the irritation out of his voice. I'd like to apologize for this morning. I overstepped my bounds. Let me make it up to you, please. Minato looked truly repentant, evident from the miserable expression and hunched posture. Gloomy doesn't suit him. Naruto couldn't help thinking. This man had been sincere in everything he'd done in the short time they had known each other, and this morning wasn't even his fault. It was impossible to remain angry. Forget it, Namikaze-san. It wasn't your fault, and it really isn't a big deal. I just blew it out of proportion, so there's nothing to make up for. I'm the one who should apologize. A bright smile grew on Minato's lips as he sighed in relief. I thought you'd hate me forever. Naruto's own lips quirked into an amused half-smile. See, kid, here is a human who is worth your efforts. He hadn't felt this calm since he'd arrived. You're right, Q. I've been forgetting the goodness in people. Maybe the old man was right about living here. Well, Namikaze-san, if you insist on making it up to me, could you show me the path to food? I haven't eaten anything today. Minato grabbed Naruto's shoulders as he had done in the morning and again steered him across the room. So, you go through here and you'll find the hot and cold food over there. The cafeteria is always stocked since there isn't a set schedule for mission departures or returns. There's always a hungry mouth. He grinned. With a nod of thanks, Naruto piled food on his plate, very pleased at the selection. The two sat opposite each other at a table as he devoured his meal. Are you going to just sit there and watch me eat? Naruto asked between bites. I've been thinking about the request you owe me for the ramen yesterday. Minato chuckled at the fearful expression forming on the younger blonde's face. Don't worry, it's nothing bad. I just want you to call me by my first name from now on, and without any honorifics. Here, that's it. Yeah, that's it. You kept ignoring me when I asked before, so with this you can't back out. Minato looked like the cat that got the cream. He was grinning triumphantly, very pleased with himself. Now, repeat after me. Me, nah. 2. Naruto glared at the smug bastard. Me, nah. 2. Very good. Now string it together. Minato. The Hunter Nin now looked like he wanted to set the man on fire with his eyes. Minato. He grit out. Good boy. Now say it again. Minato, I'm going to gut you. Naruto growled. Next, Minato, I'm going to feed you to the Inuzuka dogs. Then, Minato, I'll take your bones and grind them to dust. The ANBU captain laughed, loud enough for nearby shinobi to look their way in amusement. I take it back. You were wrong, Q. This guy is definitely not worth it. Kurama chuckled. You were just being stubborn. After Minato calmed, though a grin remained, he led Naruto out of the cafeteria with a small bounce to his steps. What are you doing tomorrow night? Naruto narrowed his eyes. Why? Do you play poker? I do, but I don't like to since I usually lose, even with my incredible luck. At Minato's questioning tilt of the head, Naruto elaborated. I sometimes call out my fox summons for fun, and they always insist on playing poker. And you know how foxes are tricksters, right? No matter how lucky I am in casinos or the lottery, I can't win against them. I've never caught them cheating either. Trust me, I've checked, but somehow, if I have a flush, they'll have a straight flush. Minato broke out into laughter again. Well, you don't have to worry about that. Friday nights are poker nights at headquarters. You have to join us. There's a minimum buy-in, but the money and prizes are pretty good, and even if you don't win, it's worth the good time. Naruto hesitated, not sure if he could handle another crowd like this morning. Kit, at least give it a try. The fox added his own thoughts. You can leave at any time. All right, he agreed cautiously. Great, it's at 8 after dinner and runs pretty late. We'll go straight after we eat. They arrived at their rooms. Well, good night. Oh, and let me call you by your first name. Minato gave a hopeful smile. Naruto shrugged. Sure, good night. He entered his room without waiting for Minato's response, feeling slightly embarrassed at how easily he had given in when just that morning he had resolved to withdraw from society. Looks like I'm stuck here for the next 8 months. Might as well make it pleasant. As he shut his door, Naruto noticed a scroll sitting in his inbox. A mission, Naruto thought gleefully. He had been itching for something other than training. A quick glance informed him Akashiori would depart at 6 the next morning to hunt a rogue Uchiha heading towards Kimobikure. The estimated duration was 2 days, and, as by Hunter Neen protocol, he was to retrieve the head and eliminate the body. The Hunter Neen frowned. He'd just agreed to poker night, but with this mission, there was no way for him to participate. Naruto sighed tiredly. Although he was excited about this mission, he was also disappointed in missing the event and even more disappointed at having to void the decision he had finally made to mingle with people. It was going to take a lot more effort to gather his courage the next time. Naruto knocked on his neighbor's door, feeling a little guilty about turning down Minato's invitation. He had been so sincere and excited, it felt like he was preparing to kick a puppy. Hey, sorry to bother you, Namek Minato. Naruto said awkwardly as the ANBU captain answered the door. His father and new friend looked the same in casual clothing as in uniform. Whereas most Black Ops agents change personas behind the uniform and mask like he himself did, Minato exuded the same air of kindness, but also the same powerful presence. It was like Minato was his true self both on and off duty, and that was an impressive feat. Many ANBU Neen and Hunter Neen lost their sanity if they didn't separate their minds. He gave a small, apologetic smile before lying to the larger blonde that the Hokage had requested to meet the next night, and because of that he had to cancel their plans. I'm really sorry, but I'll make it up to you. I'll agree to go to the next thing you want to drag me to as long as I'm free. That's all right, Naruto. I was about to visit you to apologize myself, Minato said just as apologetically, if not more so. I just received a mission assignment for tomorrow, so I won't be able to join either. How about we both take each other to something? But you can't choose ramen, because for you, ramen seems like a given on any outing. Naruto nodded in relieved agreement, glad that he got out of kicking the puppy. Lucky, he grinned to himself. At 6 next morning, Naruto stood in the Hokage's office to receive authorization for departure. It was strange since Hunter Neen usually left for missions after checking in at the Hunter Corps office, but that morning he had been instructed to see the Sandaime. Akashiori, as this is your first mission, I will brief you myself. Your mission is a routine elimination. The target is Uchiha Satoru, Jounin level shinobi, The Hokage repeated the information already provided. However, for the same reason that this is your first mission, I will need to assess your performance in the field. You will be accompanied by a fellow shinobi who will evaluate you. At this, Naruto felt an uneasy sense of foreboding. I would have assigned this mission to a Jounin team, but seeing as you were available, I decided to take this opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. No way he wouldn't. Your partner, Cheetah, has been informed that he is to evaluate a new recruit, only stepping in if necessary. Cheetah, meaning A and B, you didn't. A bit of Yuzahara Naruto slipped through from behind the Akashiori mask. Old man, I just told you yesterday about the risk of exposure. And if you've assigned who I think you did, I'm going to burn your desk. When I put in that request to leave ANBU headquarters, it was mostly because of him. Kurama howled in laughter. I am confident in your ability to keep your identity a secret. Sarutobi smiled serenely. Shit, he did. Consider it an evaluation for your skills in deception and infiltration. In any case, you will need to be evaluated before becoming Tokubetsu Jounin. If you complete this mission with your cover intact, I will place you on standby for infiltration missions. Naruto growled audibly and sent the snickering Kyuubi a mindscape storm cloud. Fine. But when I get back, you're treating me to ramen on Ichiraku's annual Super Meat Day, and I expect you to treat Shiro to the sashimi I promised him. That will not be a problem. Sarutobi agreed pleasantly as he watched the masked shinobi tie a piece of cloth over his hair. Your partner is waiting beyond the door. I wish you good hunting, Akashiori. With a final death glare from flashing violet eyes, Akashiori stalked angrily out of the room.